Bonsoir, good evening. Bonne année 2026 à tous. Wishing everyone a wonderful
Happy New Year 2026.
Your worship, all public meetings of Moncton City Council are simultaneously translated. Hearing assistant devices are available at the entrance of the council chambers. Members of the public have the right to address City Council in the official language of their choice. Meetings are broadcast live in both official languages on the city YouTube channel, accessible via moncton.ca, and will also be aired at 9 p.m. this evening on rogerstv.com. Individuals who have registered with the city clerk's office at least 7 days prior to the meeting agenda deadline will be allocated 5 minutes to deliver their presentation. All other public presenters will be allocated 2 minutes. 1 minute warning will be provided to indicate the time remaining. An important reminder to all presenters, city staff, and council members are expected to conduct themselves respectfully at all times. Disparaging remarks, offensive language, or profane expressions directed towards council, staff, or members of the public will not be permitted. Any breach of this code of conduct may result in the presenter being directed to leave the council chambers at the discretion of the chair. Toutes les séances publiques du Conseil municipal de Moncton sont
All public meetings of Moncton City Council are simultaneously translated, and hearing assistance devices are available at the entrance to council chambers. Members of the public have the right to address City Council in the official language of their choice. Meetings are broadcast live in both official languages on the City of Moncton's YouTube channel, accessible via moncton.ca, and will also be aired at 9 p.m. this evening on rogerstv.com. Individuals who've registered with the city clerk's office at least 7 days prior to the meeting agenda deadline will be allocated 5 minutes to deliver their presentation. All other public presenters will be allowed 2 minutes. At 1 minute, warning will be provided to indicate the time remaining. Important reminder, all presenters, city staff, and council members are expected to conduct themselves respectfully at all times. Disparaging remarks, offensive language, or profane expressions directed to council staff or members of the public will not be permitted. Any breach of this code of conduct may result in the presenter being directed to leave the council chambers at the discretion of the chair. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. It's
2 minutes, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and it'll be done by Susan Trites.
Merci, Madame la Greffière. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Kingston, Conseiller Butler. Are there questions? There are no questions, so we will go to a vote, which is the verbal, right? C'est bon. Merci. Merci à tous. Motion carried.
Next is conflict of interest, les déclarations des conflits d'intérêts.
Est-ce qu'il y a des conflits d'intérêts? There are none.
Is there any conflict of interest?
Les séances ordinaires publiques du 6 octobre, 3
Ordinary meeting minutes of October 6th, November 3rd, and November 17th, 2025. I have Councillor Butler and Councillor Steeves to move and to second. Councillor Butler.
You could look at 6.2.2. It doesn't really fit what we spoke about, or the summary doesn't reflect what we spoke about. So maybe everybody could have a look at it and see what they think. Mr. CEO, that was for the audience that's watching, it's the Kodiak Regional Police Authority when they came to council to give us their budget. And there was quite a bit more said about this than what we have presented here as the minutes. Quite a bit more. So I don't know what the rest of the council thinks if they had a chance to read them, but when I read that, I was quite surprised that we cut it down to Councillor Legier spoke of collaboration with 3 communities. We retaliated that councils are accountable and agrees on 17 new officers. We do disagree on the impact that we'll have, and before moving forward with any additional officers, there needs to be an analysis of work done. And then if there's an E. After you go through it, there's not much to it. The only response that says that I responded to a question about Councilor Butler, how many of the 14 officers were filled. Superintendent indicated they would provide an answer at the council in the coming days. A lot more was said than what was here. So I would like for you to go, maybe somebody could go back over the minutes and maybe prepare them again and bring them forward.
Merci, Conseiller Butler. Conseiller Richard, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Richard?
November 17th, minutes, 9.1, moved by Counselor, seconded by Counselor. I don't have any names and not sure who did. So if we can just update them. C'est correct.
Merci,
Merci.
Conseiller Richard.
Thank you, Councillor Richard. Councillor Bourgeois. Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to piggyback on what Councillor Butler just asked.
These minutes of November 3rd until there is a more details added. Is that what I understand?
I will let Madame la Greffière answer.
If that's the will of council, we can remove those and bring them back to council.
Do you need a motion or is just a direction? You need a motion?
Yes, because these are included.
Moved by Conseiller Butler, seconded by Conseiller Richard. C'est bon, merci.
Excellent, thank you.
So, is this a verbal vote?
Yes. Oh, council.
Conseiller Bourgeois, avez-vous d'autres questions?
Councillor Bourgeois, do you have any other questions? No, that's all. Thank you. Let's move on to the vote.
Yeah, for the, yes, to remove, we're voting on the removal of the November 3rd meeting minutes. We will now vote to approve October 6th and November 17th with the change from, I will add those.
Est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un vote pour
Oui.
celui-ci? Donc, Conseiller Richard.
Do we need a vote on this one? Councillor Richard? You're moving the motion. Councillor Butler, you're seconding the motion. Excellent, thank you.
C'est bon, merci, motion carried.
Okay. Next is consent agenda, les questions soumises à l'approbation. Il y a un ce soir. We will need a move.
We have one before us tonight.
Main Street Galco Atlantic Investments Network Limited.
Conseiller Richard, Conseiller Adjet. C'est bon, merci.
Councillor Richard, Councillor Edgett.
He is online.
Ah, c'est bon. Conseiller Léger.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse, and thank you, Shelley. I just want
Thank you, Your Worship.
to ask people to vote by hand, so I just want to make sure that, and maybe this is part of that platform process that I've never participated in before, but I must say that it's very clear. So in terms of me seeing all of you. But anyway, I won't continue, but I just wanted to indicate that I am online and I will vote if I can via the platform.
My apologies. I should have asked for your vote verbally.
Merci, Conseiller Léger. So we'll go to the vote. Conseiller Léger. Ah, c'est bon, merci.
If we can close the vote, please.
Councillor Léger. Okay, we got it.
Next are public presentations, exposé du public, and the first is an update on Venn Innovations Program Services and Community Partnership. And today it's Doug Robertson, President and CEO of Venn, that will be here to do a presentation.
Merci. Bonsoir, Monsieur Robertson.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire.
Good evening, Mr. Robertson. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
I'm joined today by Shannon McMacken, who is the Program Coordinator for our Tech Connect Southeast program, and Andre Zanotti, who is the Head of Program and Partnerships for our Venn Garage Incubator. Members of Council, 2026 marks Venn's 17th year doing business here in our community and in our region. Our name is rooted in our long-standing role as a connector in the ecosystem, and that role has taken on new significance since we opened our new innovation hub on St. George Boulevard 3 years ago. Yeah.
Could you push your button? For some reason, it turned off.
See red, you're go.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. Don't dock me the 30 seconds. Uh, From the beginning in our new location, we've welcomed a rich diversity of individuals from around the world. In the fall of 2024, the Moncton Region Civic Tech Movement reactivated, and they've been meeting weekly in our learning center since then. Groups like Tech Hive also meet regularly in our space. We also welcome on a regular basis a variety of community partners, including the Idea Center, the Youth Entrepreneurship Program, which is just an awesome program, our colleagues at the Southeast Regional Service Commission, the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Moncton, and so many more. And I would point out the picture on the top left of the screen is our friends from the Greater Moncton Ukrainian Association. And every year since we've moved to our new location, we have offered our parking lots as a fundraiser for them during the Atlantic Nationals Car Show. The tech talent participating in these activities, working with resident companies and partners, and attending events has resulted in what we see as both an opportunity and a responsibility, contributing in a meaningful way to the greater retention in our community of newcomer tech talent. These people and their families have chosen Moncton and the Moncton region as the place where they want to build a future. We see diverse communities, diasporas, forming here where traditionally there were none. Now more than ever, as immigration levels are being reduced, it's incumbent on all of us to make them feel welcome, included, and belonging. And that sense of belonging has to be part of it. It's central to community. It's fostered in everyday moments and can be destroyed that way too. Tonight, we want to shine some light on two areas where we're making a real difference in the community, and those are our Tech Connect Southeast program and our Garage Incubator. And I would like to invite Shannon to come up and speak to the Tech Connect program.
Thank you, Doug. There we go. So the Tech Connect program does two things for our community. It keeps skilled IT newcomer professionals in Greater Moncton, Southeast New Brunswick. It adds to our tech ecosystem, and part of the program and what they do is they build real world technology solutions for civic and nonprofit organizations. As you can see, there's quite a bit of success for this kind of program. We're different in the sense that we're not an internship, okay? These are already well-skilled individuals, and we provide cultural skills training, any technical or soft skills gaps that we need to help, and we get them connected and networked into the IT business community. Our success rate generally across Canada is about 60%, and we're hitting about 75% after 3 months. The organizations that we're currently working with now are the Black Canadian Community Cultural Center of New Brunswick and the Early Childhood and Development Family Resources Centers. The platform that they're building is going to take away all the manual, the data, the collection, all the time that they're spending on collecting data and keeping their memberships on paper and pen into a digital infrastructure where they can just, with a couple of clicks, get any information they need for government, for serving their families and for serving our community. Thank you very much. I'm going to have Andre come up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for receiving us. 2025 was a great year. We went from 9 startups in the program to 34 startups. And I will divide my speech in 3 moments: problem, solution, and outcomes. The problem is that the incubator is open to everyone, but 78% of our founders are formed for newcomers. They come here and they want to show their skills, but they have lots of knowledge, but they lack of networking. They don't know the legal procedures. They don't know people in the community. So what we do in terms of solution, besides bridging them with these people, we give them all the network, the mentorship they need. We have home tools that we made even with AI. We have partners that can give supports as ACOA and BIF and many others, and we create events for awareness. Besides that, the outcomes that we are having is that not only we're retaining talent, but there are people come from other provinces to have their business being created here. And we are providing the city economic growth because our startups are hiring, and we're paying tax and generate revenue, and also being successful nationally. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will follow up with the questions. We'll hear both presentations and then council will go ahead with the questions. Thank you.
Next is a presentation from Andrea Ann, Community Coordinator for Greater Moncton Homeless Steering Committee, honoring the lives lost in 2025 while homeless and/or vulnerable housed.
Bonsoir, Andrea.
Bonsoir, thank you. Not to take away from my time, but I just didn't know if there was the 2-minute that was supposed to come prior to the 5 minutes that I should step back. Okay. Good afternoon, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor Pelletier, and members of council. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here with you all today. On behalf of the Greater Moncton Homeless Steering Committee, today we come together to honor and remember the 31 individuals we lost in 2025. These are not just names on a list. They were cherished friends, beloved family members, and members of our community, each with their own stories, dreams, and connections to others. As I read their names, let us reflect not only on the profound challenges that they have faced, but also on the humanity they have shared. May we hold their memories close, not only as a reminder of the struggles they endured, but also a call to action to build a community rooted in compassion, dignity, and support for all. May their lives inspire us to continue to work together and toward meaningful change. Jean-Claude M., Carl S., Tamara B., Mackenzie B., Alicia F., Hannah L., Marcel V., Jenna P., Reginald T., Richard K., Isabel H., Terry S., Christopher B., Sherry M., Devin M., Jonathan R., Glenn C., Joshua G., David P., Jennifer P., Frank S., Ronald G., Christopher S., Robbie G., Annette A., Dennis L., Robert C., Kevin M., David C., Amanda C., and Alexander L. I would ask that we take a minute of silence. Thank you to council. Thank you for the community who continues to support the organizations. And thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen as well.
Thank you. Does council have questions?
We
for
have
both?
one more presentation to do.
Oh, on their notes.
We have one more
We
presentation.
have another presentation, so we'll wait until the three are.
2-minute presentation from Susan Trites on the Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Bonsoir.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Good evening, Ms. Trites.
Good afternoon, Mayor Thériault and Council. My name is Suzanne Trites. I'm the New Brunswick representative for the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem Canada team. Tuesday, January 27th is the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day chosen to mark the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Nazi concentration and extermination camp in 1945. It's a very significant day for the Jewish people around the world. This is the 81st anniversary of that incredible liberation, and its theme this year is Holocaust Remembrance for Dignity and Human Rights. The local Jewish community will remember two precious people liberated from Auschwitz. As I mentioned last year, both Joseph and Sulamit Cohn were teenagers in January 1945. They fell in love after the war, moved to Canada, and then settled in Moncton in 1958 with 2 children. Joseph had a successful curtain business on High Street. They are both buried in the Jewish cemetery. They are of blessed memory, as the Jewish people say of the departed. May we join the Jewish community in taking the opportunity to remember the victims of the atrocities of the Holocaust and remember on the dangers of anti-Semitism that is on the rise, even in our nation. As you were informed at the lighting of the menorah last month, Moncton's Tiferes Israel Synagogue is celebrating their centennial year in 2026, 100 years since they laid the shovel to the ground. Looking forward to celebrating with them later on this year. Finally, on this International Remembrance Day 2026, and in keeping with the theme focused on human dignity and rights, on dignity and human rights, we also want to remember that a family, a community, a nation are still waiting for the return of the last hostage from Gaza to Israel, deceased Staff Sergeant Ron Gavilli, for proper burial in the land of his ancestors. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Other questions from members of council? Conseiller Steves, go ahead.
Thank you. No questions, just a comment. Thank you, Susan, for always keeping us up to date all throughout the year on these important things. And Andrea, I wanted to thank you and the whole steering committee for the job that you did on December 18th for that memorial service. It was very well done. And that special tree of remembrance, how you keep the leaves on each year and continue to add to those. So certainly a sobering reminder here that we get every single year, but we're thankful that you guys are doing what you do and you care so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Steves. There are no other questions. Donc, merci aux présentateurs. Merci. Thank you.
Alors, thank you to our presenters.
Une mise à jour de la GRC.
Right, we'll get an update from the RCMP, Benoit Jolette, Superintendent, Officer in Charge, rather, of the Kodiak Regional RCMP. Good evening, Superintendent. Bonsoir, Ms. Thériault and members of the council.
Already 19 days in, just all the best to council, staff and residents of the Greater Moncton area for 2026. It's going to be a big year for municipal politics, so looking forward to work with council until we get to that day, and then to see what happens and keep working hard with the city of Moncton. I'll jump right in, and some of the items since I last presented to council. I mentioned at the last council regarding the Stuffer Cruiser events, I didn't have the amounts. It's just to clarify. So again, we were blessed to be able to work with those partners, the 3 food banks and the 3 municipalities. And thanks to the generosity of individuals in those 3 events, we were able to raise $4,000 in cash and nearly $8,000 pounds of food. 800 pounds of food. So thanks to generosity, and just to remind everybody, this is a year-round thing. The volunteers of the food banks doing a tremendous work, but we need people to help out the less fortunate the entire year round. A lot of cool events in the last couple of weeks, specifically on New Year's Eve. We were treated to nice weather, great music, and we had no major incidents reported to us. Our members were out there outside near the Avenir Center. It was a great time. Which leads me to my next points. On behalf of Kodiak RCMP, I'd like to congratulate the City of Moncton, the organizing committee, staff, and volunteers for this past Saturday for Hockey Day in Canada. We had a lot of members present during those activities throughout the day, and just to ensure public safety. And then once again, it shows that Moncton and the Tri-Community can host any kind of world-class event with the best of them. So hats off to everybody for that event. Kodiak RCMP is pleased to announce that we're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. I don't have the exact date, but I will advise council. We're going to have our own social media presence through a new Facebook page in the coming weeks. This presence is going to allow us to report to residents and elected officials, business people alike, all the day-to-day stuff that's going on in and around the city. So from traffic enforcement, attending community events, and several other initiatives. So I look forward to launching that in the coming weeks. Some of the work that our team's been doing, if we speak about our crime reduction unit, back in September, our team was started an investigation on an individual who was trafficking cocaine and in possession of unauthorized firearms. This led to on December 15th, we got more information from another unrelated victim to that first investigation that this female victim had been assaulted by the male suspect and was again still in possession of firearms. This led to a targeted enforcement initiative on December 19th. Kodiak RCMP worked along with Southeast District RCMP, the New Brunswick RCMP's emergency response team, the Provincial Crime Reduction Unit, and the Federal Serious and Organized Crime Unit. And we targeted different residences, 3 of them in particular, one on Kensington Street, a second on Bradley Avenue, and a third in Maple Hills, New Brunswick. During those searches, 3 males and 3 females were arrested, including our primary suspect. And during the search, several firearms were seized, including a sawed-off shotgun, a large quantity of drugs, including cocaine, and a large amount of cash and stolen vehicles. 2 of the males were remanded into custody, and we also want to thank our partners at Social Development as well, who came in to assist us due to poor living conditions at one of these homes where 3 young children were housed. On January 7th, our members responded to an armed robbery at a business next door in Dieppe. Once we got there, the vehicle had fled. The suspect had stolen a victim's vehicle at knife point. However, we caught up with the vehicle here in Moncton on Von Harvey. The vehicle fled from police. However, we were able to locate this specific vehicle and the suspect 2 days later on January 9th through a short period of surveillance, moved in on these individuals. Again, I've spoken to council about this again. It's one of our young offenders that we constantly deal with. He was remanded in custody again. However, I don't know for how long. So we're going to continue to work on this, and I'm just happy, luckily, no one was hurt during this incident. On that same day, January 9th, our team was working on a series of break-and-enters that had been reported at an apartment complex on Roslyn Court. And after just 2 days of work, we were able to locate and arrest the primary suspect that was actually coming back to the scene to steal some more items in this apartment building. Thanks to the quick work of our team, we were able to seize some stolen property that he had brought back with him. and had also some illegal drugs inside his vehicle. He faces various charges. In recent weeks, we've had several accounts of counterfeit money. So just want all residents to be mindful of that. In one specific incident on January 15th, we had information that somebody had used counterfeit money at a business, at a convenience store on Mountain Road. We hung out a little bit there and looked at the CCTV and were able to identify the suspect and were able to arrest the individual. So that's just one of the fraudsters that's off the street. However, we assume that there's others. It's just yesterday, our team responded to a complaint of a female who was running away on Mountain Road from what appeared from 3 other individuals. Several members patrolled to the area. We were able to secure the female. It led us to a residence on High Street. We had a dedicated presence there yesterday, all through last night, and again today. Public safety is not at risk, and this was an isolated incident. However, just to advise residents just to continue to let us do our work. I'll be able to provide council with more details on this. We believe we may have disrupted a potential network of unlawful activity. Our general investigation section is currently investigating this. On December 29th, one of our patrol members responded to an incident. It was at an entertainment facility for children on Trinity Drive. Very troublesome. So one of the staff found a bag inside which appeared to contain a firearm and illegal drugs. Our members quickly went to the location, seized the items, again looked at the CCTV cameras, and were able to identify the suspect who was still inside the location. So they quickly apprehended the suspect safely. So it's unclear what the intentions were of this individual. This 33-year-old male suspect from the Shediac area was arrested, charged, and remanded into custody. There's been various reports lately where residents are calling us in, which is excellent. And this is what I've been preaching over the last six and a half years here. When you see something that's suspicious, please give us a call. Just like one example here, a resident on January 1st called to report that there was a suspicious vehicle at a storage facility on Mountain Road. Our members quickly went to the scene and en route were able to confirm that the vehicle, in fact, had been reported stolen. Once on scene, we located, it was a known property crime offender, a 34-year-old male from Moncton. It was placed under custody, confirmed that the vehicle was stolen, and also found a quantity of cocaine and crystal methamphetamine. He faces various charges. So again, that's just one example of several where it's extremely important. If it doesn't look right, we need a call. We're constantly out there trying to be proactive, but we can't be on every street. And this is where we need residents to give us a call. If anything looks bizarre, we will investigate immediately. Finally, I'd just like to report back to council. So with the growth that was supported for 2025, as indicated in the past, we performed a massive overhaul of our investigative resources at Kodiak, specifically creating units focusing on property crime and others. So as policing demands grow in volume and complexity, we've restructured our investigative services to ensure focus, consistency, and accountability. So effective this past January 5th, our specialized policing services have been rebranded into 4 distinct operational units. Our general investigation section, which existed in the past, who deals with the most complex, most violent type of files. Our new vulnerable person unit, which focuses on sexual assault type investigations, domestic violence, and missing persons. Next, our crime reduction unit has been split and rebranded into 2-fold. One being our priority offender unit, which deals with the individuals who cause the most harm in our community. That includes drugs, firearms, and persistent crime. And as indicated in the past, the development of a property crime team that can focus solely on property crime that is happening in our area. So I look forward to present results on our key performance indicators on these 4 new teams and on Kodiak in general as we move forward through the rest of 2026. And I'm available for questions, Madame Thériault.
Merci, Surintendant. Are there any questions from members of council? Conseiller, lequel qui est le premier conseiller?
Who's first? Go ahead, Councillor Kingston. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
It's exciting and it's a useful tool. Is it more of a reporting tool in a sense? I know that when we talk about citizens being urged to call, when they see anything bizarre or suspicious, is that sort of the vehicle in which to indicate that type of activity as well?
No, so what we're still looking for is for people to give us a call. If it's an emergency, 911. If it's not a non-emergency, but something that still needs to get reported, 857-2400. This new Facebook page is not going to be monitored 24/7, but it allows us to share a lot more of the day-to-day stuff. On the New Brunswick RCMP website, often it's what we see is major incidents or missing persons or major investigation. On this, it'll be everything that's done on a daily basis, whether it's attending a school, doing a traffic operation, attending a community event, things that are new and up and coming or whatever. So giving us that availability of having our dedicated space. So within the first half day of it being announced, we already had nearly 550 people that were interested and had tagged the page. I have zero Facebook knowledge. I have to learn, but apparently that was good. So our communications team said that it's very exciting and it's actually getting a lot of interest. So I'm looking forward to it being to go live.
Yeah, that's great, Ben. It is. A lot of neighborhood groups in the city often post, and I guess the question is, does that arrive on your lap as well? The neighborhood groups will say, "Have you seen this guy? Somebody's in my driveway. They're walking by. It's 3 or 4 a.m." There's a lot of that I see on Facebook. And is that all arriving on your departments, I guess?
So often we'll get it directly from those groups or individuals or from elected officials as well too, because or from the city reps. The one good thing and what I'll say and I'll confirm is every single one of those emails, phone calls that we do get, we always do a follow-up.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Ben. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Madame Medes. Thank you.
Kingston, conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Merci, Monsieur Jolette. J'aimerais plus de détails.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Jolette. I would like more information on your new property crimes unit. Will it be targeted such as theft under $5,000, all crimes, break and entry? How many members will be affected or assigned to this unit? Can you tell us more? It's a new unit. We've invested in new positions that were given to us, and we were also able to use existing positions to staff this unit. So there will be 13 agents, and they will work on all property crimes. It could be a petty theft or grand larceny. Of course, our agents are the first respondents when there is a theft, but there are many thefts that take place in the Greater Moncton area that are from a more organized crime source. We often see the same people coming back. So this unit will be able to focus on these people and these types of crimes. Of course, we will use our criminal analysts that will point them in the right direction. But in 2 weeks, we've already collared several delinquents. For example, last Thursday, I was seeing clips showing that they were en route. And I asked if they were going to be arresting people committing property crimes. And then later in the same day, I received notification that 3 people had been identified. So we can do these quick wins with this unit, and they will lead to greater results throughout the year. But I think the KPIs will be the proof you need to see the success of this unit. will these results be measured? Of course, you'll be measuring the number of crimes, the number of arrests, the number of incarcerations. There are many citizens that have been complaining since my reelection in 2021 about how the RCMP can't always respond. Yes, the RCMP is the first responder. Sometimes they come, but then there's no follow-up. So will you be reporting on and tracking these things? Well, the KPIs have already been developed for this unit and for the other units. There are many KPIs. For example, how long does a personal crime take to be solved? Is it within 12 months or whatnot? I don't know. I don't have the KPIs in front of me, so I don't want to lead you astray. But the KPIs have already been developed and have been developed based on the teams that would be in place in 2026. Thank you. I look forward to hearing more on this. Great. I look forward to telling you more about it. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois.
Two questions. You just talked about, and Councillor Bourgeois talked about it as well, that you have four new subsections, I'll call it, that are coming to the RCMP to be focused on. GIS was one that we talked about in 2025. When the new members were coming in, they were going to be allocated to GIS. I do believe that was the conversation back then when we started talking about 18 officers to the tune of 15 million or so. Those have been allocated already, correct, from within?
So that unit you mentioned, sir, Councillor Crossman, the general investigation section, we've always had that. It's just when I explained the rebranding is before we had our crime reduction unit and our general investigation section. We just had the two investigative units. Now with this rebranding, we've had four distinct type of units.
Okay.
Where people can actually start building specialties in a specific field, whether it's property crime or sexual assault investigations. But you asked your question is if from within, that's why I'm not sure what your question is.
So if the RCMP for Greater Moncton are at a staff level 155.
Yep.
Which is debatable, we're taking the members from within to fill these positions, right? We're not hiring in, I don't know how many, let's say 4 per position, so that'd be 8. We're not bringing in 8 new officers to add to the 155.
Well, yes and no. Yeah.
Yes and no, okay.
Yeah.
So
Because when we have new positions, investigative positions, as I explained before, is that we offer it to obviously all the members at Kodiak, they're on patrol, but it also attracts other people from elsewhere that'll bring expertise, whatever. In those investigative sections, those 4 that I mentioned, it's a mix of people from within, people that were already in those positions, because when the rebrand that we did included a lot of people that were currently in investigative capacity. We just gave it a more specific name in this rebrand. So,
Okay.
But I think where you're going is the actual new positions. So,
Yeah.
so all the 17, they've all been filled. People have all arrived. We're still waiting on some people to arrive to replace those from Kodiak that had been selected to those positions. Very few. There's 5 left to arrive. So, like I spoke to council back in November, it was a lot more. I don't have the exact number. I'm guessing it's around 5. We're doing a lot better, and to have everything filled. So it did take a year, and these things do take time.
Okay, it's just that I'm a little concerned when I hear a number of 155, and then we took officers from within, which is great because we promote them. They deserve the promotion to go out and take on those new roles, but we still got to replace the member's spot where they came from. So that's why our number should have moved from 155 to maybe 165.
Yeah, it's 155 isn't the current number though, Councillor.
Okay, so we will get a current number?
I can give it to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do you have it now, or do you want to just?
Well, our total complement of regular members is 199, but our budgeted amount is 167. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll get all the exact numbers because there's been a change in 2026 that I spoke to council as well too regarding our major crime unit. But I can get all those exact numbers. And I can get an updated vacancy rate, something that we present to the CRPA, and I can easily send this into the council as well too.
Okay, and
But
I'm currently on the CRPA site. So will you share have you shared with CRPA these new positions, the ones that you just explained to the citizens of Moncton, and you've
Yep.
explained that to CRPA as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I'll follow up with the chair to see somehow if that can get put on their website so the citizens can be informed, because as much as your RCMP site may be friendly, a lot of people go to CRPA because for council, we have to go through CRPA to speak with you. Well, we can speak with you tonight, but to operational terms, we have to go through the budget process, which is through CRPA. So I thank you for letting me know that it's been shared with CRPA, and I'll ask them to update their website so that that can be on there.
Perfect.
Good, thank you, Your Worship, that's all.
Merci, Conseiller Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm certainly not going to get into the number of members that are on tonight. But I do have a couple questions, and I'm not sure, Superintendent, that they fall underneath you, but we talk a lot about the citizens calling and the members responding to each one or getting back to them. But we never get too much of I would say, an update on citizens on patrol. Does that fall under community policing or?
Yeah, it's Citizens on Patrol. It's an independent outfit. However, we're involved obviously for training and partnership, but it's not something that's directly supervised by us.
What would somebody in community policing know?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
would be able to get some type of maybe even somebody from community policing coming, or maybe give us an email or send us some stats of what's happening there.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
I even on Facebook, and I do follow that quite closely, that I never see too much about Citizens on Patrol anymore. And when we had the meetings in the West End regards to security and the issues that were going on at the time with the thefts and property damage, Citizens on Patrol was really pushed and saying that was a great thing. But again, I'll leave that and wait to get word back, if you could.
Sure, no problem.
The second thing is that I've asked you a few times regarding self-generated files. We had talked as if there was a code that we could implement, but I've never heard anything back. Is that have been implemented? So why I'm saying this is that a lot of times I'll get calls from people and they'll say, well, geez, instead of patrolling, you see a police car sitting at the back of the Coliseum parking lot. Well, I know, I've been there, and you have to sit and get your report done. I know all that. But what I'm saying is, it would be nice to know that, maybe somebody's checking a building just on their own, maybe going around the corner, coming across a break and enter, self-generated files. So is that possible, or is that coming forward, or?
Yeah, and I remember you asking me this before. It's difficult because if we use any kind of occurrence type, let's just use an impaired driver, for example. An impaired driver can be a self-generated. It could be a member out patrolling, looking for people that are driving weird, dangerously, whatever. It could come in. Says there's a car driving erratically, or it could end up being a collision. So it's hard to actually find that unless we create something completely different, which I don't know how that would work. But no, leave it with me to see. I'll have to speak to my criminal analyst to see if there's actually anything that can be done for that. But I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think it'd be great that we know that, that when we talk about, when you'll get, I get calls, or little video clips sent to me saying that over the weekend, 2:00 in the morning, they send me their clip saying that somebody's been going through their cars. They call and they said they'd send a police vehicle, but they don't see any going by. But I mean, they're not going to stay up all night to watch. But the point being is, it'd be great to see if there's somebody, that some members sometime are going through a subdivision and actually catch somebody red-handed, which would be self-generated, that they didn't need a call, but they see somebody driveways checking vehicles. We're starting now to, and I'm sure you've noticed that theft of vehicles is always on the climb. especially the upper end ones. And now they're talking about, get your little knob for your vehicle and put it in a box and so on for the high end ones because they're easily stolen. So I think that would be great that we know that at night when people are sleeping in the neighborhoods that there is patrols out there and we are catching people without people having to watch their cameras all night and call.
No, absolutely. And Councillor Butler, that does happen every day because, so again, I come here to council and I speak about some of the highlights that have happened since I last reported. This is, your comments could not be any better for the new social media presence that we're going to have for Kodiak, for example, because that's exactly what it's going to be used for. Like, and that's what I've instructed my teams is like, you don't need to wait for a big collision or whatever to happen. You can be driving in a quiet subdivision, for example, on a Tuesday night at 2 a.m, take a selfie and say, hey, I'm patrolling on this street tonight. I'm driving through Fairview Knoll Park. It's 2 a.m, keeping Moncton safe. And that's exactly the type of things we want to do because that's wherein lies the disconnect. And in a way, it's good too because residents don't really want to know all the bad things that are going on in their community because it's perception. But on the flip side, it's also good to know that police officers are on their streets any given night and every time of the day. So challenge accepted, Councillor Butler.
Thank you. Thank you.
Merci. Il n'y a pas d'autres questions. Merci beaucoup,
There are no other questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you. Have a great meeting. Planning matter.
For 259 University Avenue, and I see Josh Adams getting up to present this. Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you, Shelley. It's been a while. Bonsoir. Merci. So this application was presented to us in French, and the applicant is French. So je vais faire la présentation ce soir en français.
So I will do the presentation in French. The request is to rezone and modify the municipal plan for 259 University Avenue. The goal of the project is to allow to redesign, change the designation from neighborhood to mixed use and allow for medical clinics and offices with 2 floors and 9 residential units above. So to accommodate this project, we need to change the zoning from multifamily to mixed use and to modify to make mixed use corridor. So here's an aerial view of the property that is located on University Avenue. So it's just in front of the George Dumont Hospital. And you can see the zoning map on the left. Currently, the zoning is residential multifamily. But on University Avenue, there's a lot of usage there. There's the hospital, there's Oceans and Fisheries, other apartments. So what is being proposed is certainly aligned with existing usage in this corridor. Here's a site plan of what's proposed. On the site plan, you can see that it's just a building with 11 parking spots. When the owner submit the request, they also submitted a displacement study. And what they found is that the medical clinic that is proposed here already exists in George Dumont. So it's a clinic that would move from the hospital to this building. So all the staff that work at the clinic is already parking at George Dumont, and so are all of the visitors that will continue parking there. So there's not a great need for parking on the lot. So an exception can be made to reduce the number of parking spots to have only 11. as proposed. You can see that there are 6 bike parking spots, and the lot is also close to Kodiak Transpo bus stops. So this is a walkable area. It is a place that has a lot of transit possibilities. Here's an elevation plan so that you can see what is being proposed, and you have an image of what's to come. So this is a high quality development. This is an excellent example of infill on a mixed use urban corridor. And if you've gone through this location recently, you will have seen that this is already being rebuilt today. They've received a building permit, but we're currently revising the usage of what would take place within the building. And the best way to do it so that they can have the flexibility is to rezone through the process that we are exploring this evening. So the objectives. This is a project that is contributing to a compact corridor that's mixed use, pedestrian oriented, with medical clinics, offices on the lower floors and residential units above. And the development is appropriate, context sensitive, and aligns with the city's vision for intensification and transit supportive growth along University Avenue. So the recommendation for council, if you'd like to proceed, because this is a modification to the municipal plan on top of the zoning bylaw amendment. So we need to set a date for public presentations on February 2nd. There will also be, this will also be referred to the Planning Advisory Committee for written views, and then there will be a public hearing on March 16th. So you'll hear about this 2 more times if you'd like to proceed. Recommendations for council. The conditions here are to ensure that the lot will be used as proposed. And this includes the approval of the exception for the parking lot as mentioned. And then the next steps, as mentioned, there are several steps before council that will allow for more discussion. And if you'd like to proceed, we will also be given notice for the public if they want to participate as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Josh. We have motions before us. Councillor Bourgeois, would you like to move the motion? Great. Councillor Crossman, you'd like to support it? Second it? Go ahead, Councillor Bourgeois. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for this presentation. And to have it in French to boot, it's very rare to have a zoning presentation in French. We appreciate it. So here's my question. I know there's a process here, but this is a question about the details. In the conditions that you are recommending, you say
Screening around parking areas. Ça, c'est de la recommandation. Dans le document, vous mentionnez qu'on va, je cite encore en anglais,
in the document, you say
within 4 meters of the main building. Je comprends puis je suis d'accord en principe si c'était le plan initial qui
I agree, but if it was the original plan that was already commercial, but now we want to include residences, if I've understood correctly, are we removing land where people could enjoy the outdoors by doing this? Can we show the site plan on screen? We could look at it together.
Si je peux te contrôler. Ah, peut-être pas. Une autre? Oui, juste là.
Right here. As of today, the zoning bylaw, if you see the upper part of the building, we should keep 4 meters of space. That's the requirements that object to a reduction because there's not enough space to accommodate that. But elsewhere in the site, there's green spaces, but the reality is that with infills, it's very difficult to have enough space, green spaces for residents. So in this context, there's a number of parks nearby. I can't remember the name of the park nearby, but there's one that was completed in the past few years on Mountain Road. It's very close. So those are green spaces that can be used by residents, but we don't always have an opportunity to have green spaces on the sites themselves and also to accommodate parking space. So it is the kind of trade-offs that we have to do in the context of infills, but there's options for residents to go to various parks or green spaces when they need to. Yeah, I used to live in that neighborhood before, and I know there's the Frechette Park, and there's another one near Moncton Heights. But if nobody objects during the public hearing, then so be it. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois. Councillor Crossman.
I've got a few questions. In the CRF, you state prior to the start of construction, the applicant received approval for several variances. One of them was a reduction in the number of on-site parking spaces from 43 to 13. You touched on that. But that was point 4. Point 5 says increase in the parking lot service area from 35% to 37.7. So it's kind of like a, I don't want to say shell game, but they're increasing the parking surface area, but we're decreasing parking spaces. Does this make sense to you? Because when I read it, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, certainly. I can appreciate the comment there. So again, when you're dealing with this type of tight urban lot, like the percentage that we're talking about is basically the percentage of asphalted space. So we don't want to see typically more than 35%. But again, when you're into these areas where there's no other room to provide parking unless they were to provide it, let's say, between the building and the street. But by providing parking in the rear, they're actually, better aligning with kind of the objectives of, walkable, transit-oriented development, right? Because then the entrance is right on the street. People don't have to walk through a parking lot to get to the building. So that is one of the other trade-offs. They're trying to provide as much parking on the site as they can. And then the trade-off for that is that, the percentage of asphalt space does increase, slightly. So, the staff, from that perspective, we're comfortable with the variances. It is just it's very difficult to accommodate this type of infill on these tight lots.
This would be similar to the other development just up the street that looks very identical to this.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's the same developer or something along that line because it looks like a very similar layout.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same developer, but it's extremely similar in
Yeah.
terms of uses and in terms of parking layout. Everything is pretty much pretty similar. Yeah.
Okay. I do, throughout the CRF, you talk about, and there's one space here, you say bicycle parking is included in the site plan to support active transportation. Standard parking requirements for this proposed multi-use building would require 33 spaces. And then you talk about that. The next paragraph, you state that the statement indicated that the proposed development is expected to generate 304 daily trips. 33 in the morning peak hours and 35 in the afternoon. So the difference there is it's a lot of numbers in between, 60. So you're down to 260 or 240 visits. Where are they coming from?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's largely for the medical clinic that's going to be located there. And the clinic is an existing clinic at the George Dumont that's going to be relocating. So basically, what was submitted to us is that basically all the staff that are working at this clinic are already parking at the Dumont and all the visitors as well. So
Okay.
you'd be parking at the Dumont and then, basically not visiting the Dumont per se, but visiting this building instead.
Okay, so let's clarify parking. Are they parking at the Fisheries and Oceans building? Because that building's under renovations and they're probably going to lose parking. And that's where parking at this site may have to increase.
So right now they'd be parking at like the visitor parking for the Dumont. And we're going to talk about the other parking as well later on this
Eventually,
evening. Yeah. What the property owner has also offered is that just behind this building on Lute Street, and we didn't really get a good view of it, but on the aerial photos, it's basically a surface parking lot. It's actually owned by the same property owner, the same developer as this, and they've actually offered to basically, you know, they think that the parking is not going to be an issue. There's options, you know, already in the existing lots, but they've basically offered that if, you know, if we come to open and it's just kind of chaos traffic here trying to get in and out, they will actually reserve some spaces in that surface parking lot for this building and then communicate that with people that are traveling. So it's, they have options available for trying to accommodate it.
Okay.
And again, it is just very difficult to get on this kind of tight urban fabric lot.
And I can appreciate that, and I can appreciate what you're telling me as far as or hospital staff as well as patient staff will park on site, but they also have to walk that extra distance to get to this new clinic, I'm going to call it, right? And, you know, that could be troublesome in the winter, maybe great outside of the winter. And then I'm really more concerned about the parking that they're using now, the staff members. If they're parking at Fisheries and Oceans, knowing that that is a 7-year project at least, you know, and they are going to lose parking, I'm concerned about the community first, because patients are coming in from everywhere across New Brunswick to attend this. So I'm really concerned about the neighborhood around the clinic and the parking on the streets and the blocking of driveways and blocking of crosswalks when this clinic opens within the neighborhood. That's what I'm trying to get at, seeing where the numbers are going down for parking. So if you can assure me, which you have right now, that it's not 100% never going to happen, but they do have a plan where they can allocate more parking for this site should it be necessary. Again, it's the community around the development that's going to be more concerned.
Yeah. No, and thank you for those comments. I definitely agree. And we realize that parking in that area is already, you know, very difficult. And, you know, it's going to probably get a little bit more difficult over the next few years. So that's something definitely I can take back to the applicant, and we can have a bit more of a discussion about what the game plan might be.
Okay.
And maybe the next time we come to council, we'll have a little bit more information for you on that.
And we'll see the next steps too, right? We'll see that input from
Absolutely.
from
Yeah.
that department as well.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see their input on parking.
Excellent. Yeah, we can arrange that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Géron.
Perhaps I can clarify as well.
Thank you, Mr. Municipal Manager.
Permitted to park there, then you're asked to leave. So just only permitted DFO staff and clients can park at the DFO building. So well, during the weekend, not off-peak time. So when Josh was talking about peak times, that's like from 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. That's monitored and policed on an ongoing basis. So if you're not permitted, you wouldn't be permitted to park there anyway.
Merci, Conseiller Richard.
Thank you, Councillor Richard. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Councillor Crossman touched upon a number of things that I wanted to talk about in terms of parking, but let me ask you, the number of residential units in this building. So there's going to be 9, right? Yes. 11 parking spots that are remaining. Will it be for residents? I think so. I think this is reserved for residents and maybe with 2 spaces for visitors. But the surface parking would be mostly meant for residents because we can't accommodate all users on this property. That's for sure. So for staff parking, people will park across the road, like Councillor Crossman said. People are not all from Moncton, so they're not going to be able to use public transit or ride their bicycles to the clinic. So that's something to keep in mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the vote.
We can close the vote.
Merci, la motion est appuyée à
Thank you. The motion is passed unanimously.
For Michaud Street, and I see that Josh is again at the podium.
Thank you for that. So this one we'll do in English. So this was basically an application to, similar to the other one, it's a municipal plan amendment and a rezoning for a number of PIDs up on Michaud Street. And the goal here is basically to accommodate three-story apartment buildings, each with 6 units, so a total of 18 units on site. So largely moving from the highway commercial zone to the R3 multiple unit dwelling residential zone. So this is where the property is located. So it's up near the Sterling Meadows, subdivision, right across the street from the new MID industrial park. So Eddy Street's going to line up with the new proposed Michaud Street that will be built as part of this development. So it's a bit complicated to kind of see with all the PIDs, but essentially on the left-hand side, you can see the area that's going to be zoned to R3. It's currently highway commercial, so in many ways it's kind of like a down zoning. We're permitting more residential, but we're permitting, less intensive uses that are, or not permitting less intensive uses that are permitted today in the highway commercial zone. And then there's also a sliver that's going to be upzoned from R2 to R3 as well at the bottom left of the screen. And this is just to allow for like the roadway alignment, the future road as it comes into this area. So looking at the site plan, this is the proposal. So you're looking at the new Michaud Street that's proposed, that it intersects on the right-hand side there with Shediac Road and then Eddy Street as well. So you're looking at 3 buildings, each with 6 units. Overall, pretty well designed. You can see there's plenty of surface parking that's being provided. The parking has all been kind of consolidated for the 2 buildings, so it just kind of helps just a better site plan design. We're seeing as well a new multi-use path that's proposed along Michaud Street that will also line up with a new multi-use path along Eddy Street. So those opportunities for active transportation are certainly going to be there in the design. And then just in terms of like a general land use, it's always good to, try to push your density towards the main corridors as much as you can. So in this case, like Shediac Road, the density is coming towards Shediac Road in the subdivision, which is really good. Even though there's no transit service there today, it's expected that Kodiak Transpo will be running buses there at some point. So, having density along where that future transit service is going to be, is good planning essentially from a land use perspective. So just the rendering showing, what the proposed building is going to look like. So we're very fortunate, another high quality design. Again, just kind of a 6-unit building, and all the doors and everything are kind of facing the street as well, with the parking over to the side. So again, another excellent design that's being proposed. So this site again is currently designated highway commercial. So we're going to bring it into the neighborhood designation and then rezone it from highway commercial to the R3 multiple unit dwelling zone. Again, contributes to an attractive and pedestrian-oriented development. And certainly what's being proposed is just kind of gentle density, that missing middle that we've been hearing so much about. So certainly appropriate for the context. And with that, the recommendation is that council proceeds. Similar to the last application, it's also a municipal plan amendment, so we're going to be going through that extra step of a public presentation. That'll happen on February 2nd, and then we'll go to the PAC for their written views, and finally a public hearing on March 16th. If council wants to proceed, we also are recommending a number of conditions. These conditions are largely tied to basically just the subdivision, the layout that was proposed, just ensuring that everything's meeting the zoning bylaw, and ensuring as well that the development charges in the area are paid prior to the permit being issued. I kind of skipped by it there, but it's all good. We already kind of talked about just the different dates, so that'll be everything. Screen went a bit quick on me there.
Merci beaucoup, Josh. Councillor Crossman, do you wish to?
Thank you very much, Josh. Councillor Crossman.
Anyone for questions? Pas de questions? So we will go.
There are no questions.
Counselor Sleeves is not in the room, so we can close the vote.
Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
And we have one objection that was received, and I see Josh Davies making his way to the podium.
Bonsoir, Josh.
Good evening.
Good evening, Josh.
No, it's very, very good to have Josh back here, and I know that I think everyone's going to stand to benefit from his expertise and work. So we're very fortunate that he came back, and looking forward to what the future holds for the two Joshes in planning. So as mentioned, this is a public hearing, an application to amend the zoning or the zoning bylaw and the zoning, my apologies, to accommodate a 3-story development totaling 12 residential units. And this is located in Ward 1 on the eastern side of Elmwood Drive. We'll get to the site plan and the specifics of the area shortly. However, again, this is in an area we are seeing a pretty substantial amount of development. It is near to the gateway to the MID Business Park, which has been very successful to date. And again, an area where we do anticipate an increase of transit. We do see an anticipation increase of development along these types of transit corridors, which bodes well with what we're trying to achieve, not only in the current municipal plan, but where I feel the city will probably progress as well through the current municipal plan and zoning bylaw review. So in terms of the current situation, the property, if we kind of look from left to right, is outlined in red. It is an irregularly shaped lot with a mix of zoning that we're intending to clean up through this process. So the current zoning in that middle image shows a mix of R2, or that low density housing area, in addition to NC, so neighborhood convenience, which is just that area to the north. Again, this has been as a result of land acquisition and development through MID, who currently own the land, but will intend, pending a decision here with council tonight, to sell that for the purposes of development. So in terms of the site plan, you can see where the site becomes a little more narrow is essentially the cutoff between the parking and the structure itself. So you'll see that the parking is not located along Elmwood Drive, but rather Lee Drive, which will enable the safe coming and going of vehicles to and from the site to access Elmwood Drive. The subject site and the property, again, it's irregularly shaped, and it's not too small, but again, there are some constraints with respect to the site boundaries. For that reason, there are 3 variances that would be included under the current standards of the zoning bylaw. The first is Elmwood Drive. There's a special setback of 6 meters. In this case, it is proposed to be reduced to 5, and that's in order to, again, accommodate the building and making sure that it fits appropriately on site. This was assessed through development review and through looking at the utility easements, and no issues were raised with the proposed setback. The second is a reduction in parking. Again, trying to optimize an infill lot and located on transit, located in areas of development with close proximity to amenities. Staff were more than supportive to reduce that parking requirement. The third is a height requirement, and we'll look through at the elevations here. There is a standard in the zoning bylaw with respect to the height of the building. This was reviewed in terms of what would be permitted in the zoning bylaw, what is then permitted in relation to R2. And again, this 3-story building was not considered to be overly visually intrusive to its neighboring properties. The quality in terms of the materials is above and beyond what would be expected in the zoning bylaw for this zone. And as a result, staff had no issues supporting this variance. In terms of public notice, as mentioned, an objection was received, and there was pushed, again, coming through the public notice legislative requirement, and the radius inconsistency with the policy is that it's 100 meters. So you'll see that area in green is a 100-meter radius outside of the property area. And as a result, I'm not sure, Shelley, do you have the objection? I don't have it in front of me, just with respect to the concern that was raised. or it's in the council package, but Shelley, you can pull it up here.
Did you want me to read it into the record? I believe Mr. Chamberlain is here to speak.
Oh, if he's here to speak to it, then we can do that instead if that would be preferred. Yeah.
Is Mr. Chamberlain in the room? He had said he would be here to speak to it. If not, I can read it into the record.
Yeah.
Is this going to work? He's lived on Price Street since 2020, and before they bought, he had called the city to see if the piece of the corner, to see if anyone was going to build there, and the city of Moncton told him that no, the piece of land on that side was theirs, and would never have had another dwelling there because the price of the land is too small. Now, 5 years later, they are talking about a 3-story building. I paid $25,000 for privacy fence, and now they want to put a 3-story building there, and I now have no privacy. I talked to a few of the homeowners, and they said they didn't like the idea. So we will be there Monday night. So I've not been made apprised of anyone else who wishes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Just with respect to the height and the massing, I believe, again, in terms of the separation and the overall height relative to adjacent properties, we're not looking at a situation where I believe privacy will be greatly infringed. Development can occur on these lots, and in effect, there would not be a position where we're looking at balconies completely overlooking properties. This area, again, is identified as an area for growth and development. Not to say that we would be allowing the full extent of the 6 stories in this case, but we did feel through review and the ability of what that lot could accommodate when consolidated in its entirety, that the 3-story was sufficient and not overly adverse to the surrounding environment. So I'd just like to be able to respond to that concern that was raised. And in light of this, the recommendation before council, this did go through to the PAC. No issues were raised with respect to the proposed development. And therefore, it is recommended that Moncton City Council approve amending zoning bylaw Z-22.5 and the corresponding schedule by giving second and third reading subject to resolution with the following conditions that are listed. I'd be happy to go through any of them. But this would conclude my presentation, and I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Josh. Is the developer here?
Thank you very much, Josh.
No, you're fine.
I'd be happy to take questions if there are any.
So you're going to take the questions, Josh?
The applicant would be willing to take questions if there are any.
C'est
Yeah.
beau. Donc, do we have anyone who wishes to support this project, who wishes to speak? We don't. And you mentioned someone opposing. So are they in the chambers this evening?
It does not appear so.
C'est beau. Donc,
Anybody else who wishes to object?
okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to object to this project? I don't see anyone. So. And then members of council. So are there any questions? Oh, Conseiller Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Josh, for the presentation. Even though the objector, could be a number of reasons why he's not here. In the map, can you point out or maybe the address where he is? Is he right next door to that? When we look at this, we're just looking at a red line and a house next door. We can bring that back up, or?
I'm not sure, Councilor Butler, if his civic was provided, but it sounds like if it's on Price Street, that he's likely across the street, if I had to guess. Or the house fronting on, yeah, it may be that one, sorry, apologies. I knew that the residential ones not to the north side were removed, but it may be one of those properties along that southern side of Price Street.
So maybe to the clerk, in the objection that was sent, is there any address?
Yes, there is, but however, it's due to privacy issues, we would never state that publicly.
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Merci, conseiller Butler. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Thank you, Councillor Butler, Councillor Bourgeois. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Josh. Just a question. There's something that I'm finding a bit weird here. We have a property that's owned by the land or a Moncton Industrial Developer, MID, but we have a zoning application for a building that somebody already invested in developing plans for this site. So my question is very straightforward. Was this property put out for sale to the public? Could anybody apply or to purchase the land? Or was it set aside for the developer in question?
Intersection improvements for the MID Business Park. So these properties were purchased by MID, would not be considered property directly of the city of Moncton. And through this process, there's a few other examples where we have a landowner who is willing to sign a landowner declaration, and the purchase and sale of that property would be contingent on these plans being approved. And that would be then enable them to execute the purchase and sale. So in this case, this would be, again, land that was acquired strategically through MID in order to enable those intersection improvements we've seen on Price. And then this essentially is the remnant land that would be available to MID to dispose of or to sell on the market, just like any other property that they would have in their, I guess, in their catalog.
Okay, and I know you can't speak on behalf of MID, but does MID have a policy that whenever they dispose of land, they have to have a competitive bid?
Pierre Dupuis from MID is here, and so if you're happy for him to answer the question, I'm sure he would be more able than I.
Merci.
Bonjour, conseiller, Madame la Mairesse.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council.
Based on decisions by our board of directors that establishes the prices for land. In this particular instance, it's kind of different from what we normally do because it's not an industrial park lot. Again, to Josh's points, we acquired these lands to be able to improve the intersection, so widen Elmwood Drive at that point. So we purchased, I believe, 3 houses on the south side of Price back in 2016, tore down the houses, and this is a remnant lot that we've been paying taxes as a not-for-profit for the last number of years. And although they weren't part of our normal offering of industrial lands, they would have been available for purchase based on, we have a set price, a developer Arise gives us a deposit for development, and our board approved the sale.
Est-ce que vous avez un processus compétitif? Est-ce que vous avez une politique qui dit...
Is there a form of a competitive process? Do you have a process that requires that it be announced to the public and be made available to the public? Have other promoters had the opportunity to make an offer? Well, we don't have a policy per se, other than announcing or lots that are for sale for a specific price. So this was advertised. Yes, it must have been advertised maybe in 2016, 2017, but it's not a lot.
Yeah, the Moncton East Business.
If you take the example of the Moncton Business Park, Industrial Park, we made a proposal to the board of directors that accepted the price for those lots, but for this lot, given that it's not part of the industrial development, we looked at the fair market value of a lot that could be developed, especially in this case, it's a lot that's hard to develop because of its shape. And we've determined a price, and that's the price that the developer accepted, and for which we received an offer from the promoter. So can you guarantee that we won't have any controversy from other promoters who will claim that they weren't made aware of the availability of this lot? Well, I mean, we can advertise as much as we want, but at the end of the day, did our marketing efforts and we advertised the land that's for sale. And it's people's responsibility to do their due diligence and to seek information about those lots. And this is an unusual lot because it's not part of the industrial park. Do you have other lots that fall under the same category? Yes, we have another piece of land north of the intersection that was sold 3 or 4 years ago to a developer that made an offer to purchase the land. We possibly have 2 or 3 lots that are available for sale. In some cases, we had to get a commercial appraisal to determine the fair market value of said land. And that's the kind of land that's available for interested promoters.
I know that you're independent from the city of Moncton.
C'est quand même un organisme qui...
But it's still an organization that depends on the city of Moncton in a great part. But I'd like to leave you with a suggestion. You can think about it, your board can think about it, and we'll decide in due time. Perhaps it's worth exploring a policy that could say that in future, when lots are for sale, because we're a public corporation under the city of Moncton, perhaps it should be announced when a given lot is for sale. I leave that with you. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois. Councillor Richard. Thank you, Your Worship.
The objector, did he get a reply? Usually on these public hearings, when we get the package, we see the objection, we see the reply that was sent back, some explanations.
In this case, I do not believe so because our understanding was that they would be in attendance tonight, but it would be happy to send a follow-up with them in the coming days, pending council decision.
Okay. Appreciate that. I think it's nice to see. It's nice to see, and I'm sure he'd like to be acknowledged. I'll see.
Merci, Conseiller Richard. Are there any other questions? Oh, Conseiller Léger.
Councillor Legier, you have the floor. Thank you, Your Worship.
I guess in hindsight, if MID had all of this land and you were looking at redoing that intersection, and maybe this is to engineering, we have spoken often on roundabouts and trying to, better the flow along streets like Elmwood. And I'm just curious as to why, or perhaps, and perhaps this is for maybe a follow-up. I'd like to know what maybe some of those conversations were like, and if you've got so much extra land left over, it probably could have perhaps facilitated a roundabout that would have made such better flow on Elmwood Drive. It's not here or there today because I think this is a good development, but I would like to have a follow-up, and then perhaps we can have a discussion in the future on, I think the importance of traffic flow and just adding another street light as we did and so on. I think perhaps it's a missed opportunity.
Yep, our transportation engineer, Radia Rafat, is here, and she's thinks she can give you some context.
Bonsoir, Madame Maras and Councillor Legier. Just to...
Good evening, Your Worship.
The four-legged intersection of Elmwood / Hennessy / Bryce. And so there aren't any traffic signals being recommended at Elmwood Davis. It's too close to Elmwood and Price. The Elmwood Drive corridor study that was just completed did analyze the Elmwood Price intersection and found that currently and into the future, it would operate well with its current configuration as a signalized intersection. roundabouts were recommended at other locations on Elmwood Drive, but not this particular location.
It's interesting that roundabouts are recommended, but we don't seem to see many of them be actually produced. But I appreciate the context. I think that perhaps we have some missed opportunities. Anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, Conseiller Léchard. Are there any other questions from anyone? So if there are no
S'il n'y a pas d'autres questions, je vais déclarer l'audience publique terminée.
Conseiller Kingston will second. And we will go to any questions on this. There are no questions. We will go to electronic vote.
Oh, just one
Ah.
second. Councillor Crosby.
Thank you, Your Worship. Josh, number one, Josh 1, Josh 2, and one thing
Yeah,
2.
we're gonna have to work on how we differentiate
Yeah,
between the two,
yeah.
because he's taller than me, and I'm a little heavier, so I'm not sure what nickname I'll get, but hopefully I get a good one.
It's easy. You wear the bow tie, he wears the ties.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's good
Okay,
for me.
that's
Works
easy.
for me.
One compliment to you and your staff. I love the map idea. It went away for many, many years on these developments so that residents at home, when these public hearings come up, can actually see the radius that you and your team have surveyed. That's gone away for a number of years, so I'm really happy to see that come back. So please, as a bow tie guy, carry it on and keep it in the presentations.
Noted.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci. So we will proceed with the vote.
We can close the vote.
Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
The next item is another public hearing. It's Station Yards Master Plan and Rezoning, and there were support and neutrality received. They were also in your package.
Me again.
Go ahead, Josh.
So again, good evening, everyone. And this is the public hearing for Station Yards. And the rezoning and master plan is required in order to accommodate an application to rezone from a combination of R3 and SC, being multiple unit dwelling and suburban commercial zoning, to multiple unit dwelling, post-secondary zoning, and the P1 community use zone. And this application will accommodate a master plan for the approximate 80-acre property, and the application is SHX Development Limited, or Shanax. In terms of our location, we're looking at Ward 3, just hugging the inside of Wheeler Boulevard, in an area that had sat vacant for quite a while, even as the Pinehurst development and Air Avenue area did see development. And part of the reason for that, and we'll touch on it a little more in a future slide, is the challenges of infrastructure and accesses to and from these lands. And thankfully, through the hard work of administration, council, and the landowners, we did come to an improvement or an installation of infrastructure that ultimately will help bring these lands on for development. In terms of the site and location, again, here we are looking from left to right. The existing campus is underway with Shanax, having constructed 2 buildings that are predominantly acting as nursing homes. There is a section of development we will touch on that will show more, active lifestyle and different levels of housing support that will continue on the Shanax campus. If we look at the zoning today, you'll see that sort of that hard line between the suburban commercial and the R3. I suspect that has been there for some time, as this area had not been looked at from a zoning perspective in terms of its development because of its constraints. So now what we're looking at, and I do apologize, we'll be bringing through the correction on the P1 area, which will be the LFPP. We're going to talk about that in the future subdivision application. But we do have that area in the southeast corner that is for post-secondary zoning. And I'll show a visual of that later. However, that was needed in order to help accommodate the parking that was lost by MBCC through this infrastructure project. So we had to make sure that the zoning was consistent in order to make sure we weren't creating any headaches for ourselves in the future. So in terms of the master plan, you'll see what is ultimately proposed, looking at a lower density housing model, especially with respect to the properties on Elmhurst that are low density residential dwelling units today, ultimately moving in density as we go from the south ultimately to the north. So some of those areas of higher density that we're looking at are close to or adjacent to the Wheeler off-ramp and the Wheeler Boulevard itself. And this is seen as opportunistic in that in this area, there is a minimal or less impact to the properties within the surrounding environment. So the larger developments are located well over a few hundred meters away from the existing neighborhood. You'll see a mix of housing typologies in this area. So everything from a single unit dwelling up to a high density residential development. And again, a lot of this infrastructure, as I mentioned, is in place. And now we're here today to look at the approvals with respect to getting shovels in the ground and creating more much needed housing units in an area that has been designed and looked at for high density residential development for some time. With respect to the road network, this master plan has seen, I wouldn't say countless, but several iterations in terms of its development, working through an interdepartmental working group with engineering, fire, Kodiak Transpo, making sure that everybody ultimately is on board with what the network that is proposed and that will work both in the short, medium, and long-term future. So you'll see if we move from west to east, the existing connection to Worthington Avenue that was constructed in order to enable the campus to develop on the western side. Ultimately looking towards a connection to, again, that infrastructure roundabout that was developed and is not open yet, I believe will be open in the very near future, providing a connection to Mountain Road in between the Northwest Shopping Mall and the MBCC Community College. In addition to this, we've looked at, when warranted, the future expansion or opening of the former Ryan Street, which has then been renamed to Batasura Street. That's going to ultimately looking at, based on the proposed development, a right-in and right-out when warranted from that northern section, again, hugging that off-ramp of Wheeler to provide another access to and from the site. Again, a right-in and right-out. As the area develops, we wanted to make sure as well that in the future we weren't prejudicing ourselves from any other future accesses. So you'll see that yellow dotted line on the screen that essentially will enable us through a future road connection, and one we will look at again through the municipal plan review to enable a future intersection connection with Plaza Boulevard to create a clean four-way intersection again in the future. Not something that's warranted today, but something we wanted to be sure of in terms of laying this site out, that it wasn't an opportunity that would be missed in the future. In addition, you'll see that area in behind the Northwest Mall is that existing hydro corridor, which could act as a future access when the time warrants, if that property, I should say, was ever to change in terms of its use or development. Another topic of discussion that we had a lot of back and forth on internally and with Shanax was the allocation of land for public purposes. It is rare that we are going to acquire a piece of land of this size through one LFPP or subdivision application. And what we were looking at and what we worked in terms of our Parks and Recreation staff and making sure everyone was comfortable was to ensure a strong pedestrian connection to and from the site. So if we were going from south to north, you'll see a connection to the existing, I believe it's called the Pinehurst Park. I think I called it Elmhurst Park forward, but the existing Pinehurst Park ends on that southern portion. You'll see that green connection that's ultimately going to provide walkway and safe access for children, seniors to get to and from within the site plan, but also leading furthest to the north would be a large section. It's approximately 3 acres in size, so not dissimilar from the size of the YMCA in the north end and the Crosman Center, to accommodate a future recreational facility. There's not a determination of what that facility will be. However, we wanted to make sure in planning that we did have this land set aside, knowing that as this area develops, we want to make sure that there is sufficient space for all forms of users to use. And through working with Parks, it was felt that this 3-acre size would be sufficient in order to serve that area. So it was a good example of how we were able to achieve not only connectivity, but also sufficient space for a future facility if and when the time allows. So I mentioned height and in terms of what is being proposed. So we do allow up to 6 stories in the zoning bylaw today as of right. But as we have seen, there is a bit of a shift in a demand in terms of what is proposed to be built. And in looking at this area and the potential that it offered, again, with servicing studies, traffic studies, that we felt we could be comfortable with, and in terms of working with the landowner, we are committing the landowner, and again, through their agreements, to a height district map. So essentially what will occur is in this area, that low density is protected, again, in terms of the stories and what is permitted on the southern side of Worthington, progressively moving towards multiple unit dwellings and higher density as we get closer to the roundabout. The rear part of that property is adjacent to a housing cooperative that has a mix of housing units to it to the south. And then as we move north again from Worthington across the street, we're starting to see an increase in density. In this area, we're going to see private streets and a mix of housing typologies from townhouses, row houses, to stacked townhouses. And again, like getting into those 5- and 6-story, what we would now sort of call a mid-rise building in terms of what we can expect from a typology in this area. As we go north of the LFPP, that's where the density and the height begins to increase. Again, looking at 10-story buildings, 8-story buildings, and ultimately looking across the street. And it's important to note that this is a master plan area. This is not something that we are going to be taking permits on immediately. It's an area that will develop over time. And with this size of 80 acres, what administration and our team really tried to do was build a really effective sandbox for Shannex to play in that did have a thorough review, but did enable density. We know that through the urban growth strategy, we're looking at a target of around 16,000 housing units over that 25-year period. This area has the ability to provide quite a bit of that in a way that has been vetted, reviewed, and ultimately supported by administration. Again, so that's where we're looking at the 12 all the way up to potentially 18-story buildings. But again, it doesn't necessarily say that the building that will go there has to be 18 stories. We're purely building the capacity and building the space for this to occur without not necessarily we would go to planning advisory committee, but as the zoning in itself would permit this. And this would be a schedule that would be included as part of the approval package that ultimately, if approved by council, would go to the province for registration. So it would be embedded in this approval. I know that Heather Hansen from Shannex is here today, and she's going to give a bit of an overview from the Shannex perspective on what they envision. So I had a nice visual presentation in my intro to council. She'll probably do a much better job with some flashier content than what I had. But essentially what we're looking at here is sort of 3 core sections. And it's important to note the distinction because we'll be looking at this through a phased development approach. It is 80 acres. It's not something that can get built immediately over time, as I mentioned. But there is an understanding, and Heather will touch on it more, that there will be continued evolution of the campus and also that neighborhood section that I've pointed out there in red. That will be the first area. So that lower density moving to that sort of mixed housing typology will be some of the first permits that we would see through this process, in addition to developments that would come forward as part of the Shannex campus with the high density to come. And this is, I guess, not the most exciting visual, but it is a roundabout and shows connections to Mountain Road and some of the hard work that I believe we started working on this file in 2021. I was a part of it. So it's been almost 5 years in terms of the work that, especially a lot of kudos to Renee and his team and everyone that's been involved to kind of make this picture a reality. This is one of the few instances where the city, through partnership with Shannex and the development charge bylaw, was able to put in infrastructure before the development occurs. It's not something that we typically have seen elsewhere, and thankfully for this tool that we have now, it's more of a reality. It's not to say that we'll be able to do this in every area that we go into. However, again, when the opportunity presented itself Shanix understood the need for the roundabout, for the infrastructure to ultimately get people moving in and out of this area. And it is important to note too that this isn't the only in and out of the area. There is connections down through Air Avenue. There is connections down through Worthington, Cardigan. And as this area develops, we will have that future right in and right out intersection between Batasur and Ryan. So we are, again, this is not one of those, there's only one way in type scenarios. And again, even though there is a road here, there also is sidewalks. There also is going to be some multi-use trail connections that will ultimately allow these residents to get to and from the shopping center, to get to and from MBCC in a way that they will not only need or can only get there through their single vehicle car. So it's a very progressive look at ultimately where we feel that some of these areas, especially these higher density targeted areas, can go, and really looking at prioritizing, I guess, people or other modes of transport beyond just the single vehicle. Appreciating we're not going to solve that problem just with this file alone, but this is certainly a step in the right direction with respect to how this area and how these lands, if you look at them comprehensively in advance, can be developed in lieu of a piecemeal approach that sometimes can cause problems down the path. All these are still on, but I'll flick through them because I know Heather's are a little stronger than mine. Again, here's that public notice in terms of the 100 meters. We did receive two questions that were of a similar ilk. One was received late on Friday, and I will get back to that owner today. I believe neither advised that they were willing to speak. And there was one good example where a concern was raised between Elmhurst Drive and the new Worthington. And essentially, the landowner had asked that if there was any chance of a potential increase of visual buffering between the developments that will come on Worthington Avenue and on Elmhurst. And so I was able to sort of take that on, have a bit of a think about it. And what I did was I reached out to the Shanix team, and they've already committed to buffering and improving that area in the spring in order to make sure that they're being a good neighbor. And I think as part of this process, with sort of the mentality that we've all taken, appreciating that this is not, again, it's a master plan. It is something that is going to take place over 10 to 15 years. I think that was always sort of what was put in mind in the community, and Heather will touch on this more, is that from a municipal administrative perspective, ultimately I think we've been able to achieve that. All of which to say, this also did go to the Planning Advisory Committee, who were very excited about this project and did approve it unanimously. A lot of positive comments and I guess encouragement with respect to where they also feel things can go from a development perspective. So again, it was supported, and they do recommend that council approve the zoning bylaw and associated schedule. Then this should be subject to resolution with conditions. And again, I'm not going to read them all because there are about 41 of them, but if there are any specific questions that anyone would like to dive into, I would be happy to respond. And this would conclude my presentation, and I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Merci, Josh. Is the developer here, and do they want to present?
Yes and yes.
Yes. Okay, so would you come forward then, please?
Where your presentation is a PDF, you'll have to slide it up. Yes.
Okay, great. Bonsoir, Heather.
Bonsoir, good evening. Thank you. It's very nice to be here. Thank you to Deputy Mayor Theriault and councillors for allowing us a few moments to speak. Obviously, Josh and team have done a lot of work on this file, this planning development file for a while. So I'm really just here to offer some context and hopefully just to continue to show our commitment to really developing a thoughtful community for Moncton. My role at Shanix is Chief Strategy Officer. I am joined, though, by our Vice President of Operations, Derek Green, as well a couple of my colleagues, and I'll speak about Bill here in a few moments as well, one of our partners that we'll be working with on Station Yards, and we have been working with them. But for those who may not know who we are a 38-year-old family-owned and operated organization, and with really origins in care and really offering a continuum of lifestyle options for older adults. And when we looked at this land, which we acquired probably almost 5 years ago now, it was 80 acres. And you heard from Josh earlier that 20 acres has really been dedicated to building out a seniors living community, which we are still doing. Today, there are 3 licensed long-term care homes there. And we do see offering a continuum of lifestyle options on the remaining 20-plus acres. But this is a large piece of land for Moncton and for New Brunswick, and obviously centrally located. So we know that there has been a lot of interest in continuing to develop this. And we've really been thinking about what it is we could do thoughtfully to really bring something unique to Moncton, next door to a lovely community of Pinehurst, and of course, a really vibrant retail commercial district that already exists. So that is really why we're here today. I will say we have been in New Brunswick for 27 years. Our regional office is here. And today, just a little bit of DNA, we have about a little over 2,000 residents who live with us today and 2,100 employees in New Brunswick. So just that to say that we're as interested in this being a really lovely community as you would be. So this is our approach. We thought a lot about what the urban growth strategy has done, and we're working with an organization today. It's not us. That's really helping advise how we build an active community, something that is activated through walkways and landscaping, and obviously preparing ourselves to work with other developers in the community who really want to help bring this community to life, because that's ultimately what we're looking to do, is provided approvals are received, that we would work with the assistance of Bill Hennessy from Colliers East with developers who would be interested in participating and developing this community beside where Shanix will be operating our seniors living community. So something that's really cohesive and well thought out and put together. I haven't looked at any of the notes that I brought with me, so I'm just really freewheeling up here. But one thing I did want to talk about, these have really been the North Stars of what we have been developing or talking about with the individuals that are helping us master plan, and thinking about, something design and parcels of land that would be community oriented, and really thinking about what developments we could bring in that show action, engagement, walkable communities, really streets that are friendly and activated at the street level, as well as connected pathways. Of course, we saw the green spaces, and what the orientation of these parcels of land that developers would be interested in working with us on, or with Bill on, to bring to Moncton. So you saw a little glimpse of it. Obviously, there was many more rectangles on the previous slides that Josh showed, but this is really how it's laid out. I think the color helps this, and the legend helps really understand for the community of Pinehurst what this would mean. But the lower density areas would be the gardens. This is what so single dwelling units, 2, 3, 4-story heights. And then as it works up to the northern properties, that's where we would be looking for our developer partners to think about those medium or higher rise heights. And this is a phased development. Shanix, we will continue to build out our community, but we're really focused on phase 1 as where we'd like to go, and working with Bill at Colliers and others on what this could mean for those who might be interested in buying and developing here. So the gardens, the parks, the boulevards, and the vistas, we're actually going to come forward with some suggestions on facades and looks, because a cohesive sort of blended community that's interesting to the eye and appealing to residents who want to live here is important. And more of this information, we're really focused right now on some, marketing materials that could be passed along to interested developers, and more information in time will be available on a website as this progresses. So I'll pause there, and I guess we'll turn it over to Josh to come back, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions as needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So are there any other proponents who wish to speak this evening? Is there someone who objects to this project who wishes to speak? I don't see anyone. There's no one, Josh, that you're aware of. So we will go, if not, we will go to the members of council. So Conseiller Butler, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thanks, Josh, for the presentation. Also to Heather for your presentation. Thank you. Couple things. First of all, I guess that my biggest concern was always about the public use property. You know, it's 80 acres, we should be having 8 acres, 10%. Part closest, the part of the public use lands near Wheeler is only 3.5. So we're using about 4.5 just for a little bit of trails going here and there. And I just seem, when we talk about trying to compare them with the North End Y or the Crosman Center, you can see with both the North End Y and the Crosman Center, we would both love to have a development over that. But I still think that we should revisit that to see how much property we can get down in that first part closest to Wheeler. 4.5 acres for walking trails for that area, I just think it's a little too much. With that said, my next one is when you go to build a development like this, and you know, and we've gone through it in the North End, further up, people that live, residents that live there are complaining about vehicle speeding, especially big trucks, the dust, the dirt, the noise early in the morning, early at night. Like, if we're going to do this and do it right, first of all, we have to really start doing something with Worthington. That, to me, when you make that turn and there's not a stop sign in sight, it's just free travel. Now, if you're going to get big, large gravel trucks, dump trucks going up there, like, we have to take right now, before this gets going, the measures to slow that down. We have to take the residents that are already there into consideration, what they're going to go through. So we've had complaints, and I've heard complaints about Worthington. And I don't want to get off topic here too far, but it all comes back to the traffic flow and things that are going to be going into this area for the build. So a couple weeks ago, I got a call about speeders, especially in the morning. So I went up onto Worthington about 8 in the morning, and I said, well, from the Board of Works up to the end, I'm going to drive exactly the speed limit. I get passed by 2 cars. Passed 2 cars. Now, I realized that you call the RCMP, but the point being, when we start to develop this area, we have to decide, are they going to go off a mountain road, the construction group? Are they going to come up Worthington? Like, we have to make sure that the citizens are already there, don't get covered in dust and mud and everything else. So what's your idea of how we're going to help that?
Yeah, I may be able to turn it over to Renee, who might have a bit more familiarity with the construction, but generally what we would look at is, again, a lot of these buildings, especially those larger podium tower type buildings, they may end up needing variance approval. They may need to come back to us for another level of approval beyond just council. And my understanding is that they are intended to take the shortest path. So part of the reason why council and Shanex invested into that east-west collector, or sorry, that collector from the roundabout, was in order to accommodate a lot of that traffic. So we would anticipate, and again, Renee can elaborate a little more, is that a lot of that traffic may end up be using the existing Batasura Street that was used in order to construct the nursing home, and that it would be intended, if they're taking the shortest path, that the majority of that traffic would take place through the connection to Mountain Road and roundabout. But I'll turn it over to Renee if there's anything that he can add.
It could.
Or
it
we
could. But
yep.
what I'm trying to say is, for the residents that are already there, that have lived there for many years, we have to make sure that, and maybe Rennie can follow up on this, but we have to make sure that we don't let them take the decisions that they want. We give the construction companies maybe a map of which way we want them to go, so with the least resistance to the people that are living there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the concern. It's always the case with the construction or development where they have to use the shortest or direct route and on keeping it on trucking routes as long as possible. But those things do happen. They deviate from the plans, or it's a big lot, so there's different accesses, and it depends on the phasing. But we will work with the developers, we'll work with the contractors, and we certainly get those calls when they don't follow a procedure. And I just wanted to also add to the fact that we definitely look at Worthington from a traffic calming point of view. As you're all aware, we do have a traffic calming policy that we're following. But I know we've received some complaints in the past just because of the width of the street, mainly.
No markings.
And the markings, the lack of markings. So we'll definitely look at that one as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Conseiller Butler. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Merci, Josh, pour la présentation. Merci au développement.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you, Josh, for your presentation. Thanks to the promoter.
3 questions, 1 comment. My math doesn't compute. Your document says that this area is approximately 81 acres, 35 acres of multiple unit residential and 46 acres of suburban commercial. Is the 7.3 acres for LFPP in addition to those 2?
It would be taken before the out of that 80. So if we're looking at an 80-acre property, we're looking at 8 acres of LFPP space.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
why is,
It's the current state.
why does it say in your document that the total amount of LFPP allocation within the master plan is 7.3 acres? Shouldn't it be 8.1?
Yeah, I'll double back with Paul Edgar on the calcs, but it does meet the requirement. Because it's coming forward in the next subdivision application to make sure that the LFPP is sufficiently met. So it would meet the 10%. So it would have to be in and around 8. Because there was some LFPP that was vested as part of the initial subdivisions when the campus got built and the initial Worthington was constructed. So there's some balance there to work through as well. But I can follow up with you on that just to reaffirm the numbers between what was been approved to date and ultimately what's come out of this master plan. Because there's been a few different applications on this over time.
Yeah, I know, but you're asking us to approve it. And right now, what you're telling us is it's 7, I quote your own report, the total amount of LFPP allocation within the master plan area is 7.3 acres. If it is 10%, which is what the law requires, then it should be 8.1 acres.
So 10%, sorry, I follow up, 10% exclusive of streets. So it's 10%, sorry, but again, like so again, the 10% has been met and has been reviewed. So it would be because of the proposed street network based on what has been provided and what will be coming forward in the subdivision application that's coming next, that would meet the 10% requirement.
Okay.
Apologies.
That makes sense now. And the streets, it does meet the 8.1, might be even more. Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Perfect. Second question. You do mention post-secondary, but correct me if I'm wrong, did you say earlier we expected by the time all of this is developed that there will be 20,000 people?
Potentially 4,500 housing units. So but again, there's a different typology. A lot of these in the high density areas may be those 1 and 2 bedroom models. So it's hard to put a number to it, but generally speaking, you would look around 2 people per household generally. So we'd be looking not at 20, but around 9,000. Again, assuming full build out, assuming every unit and every density target is met, that would be roughly where we would be looking. Yes.
Let's round it out to 10,000 just for the sake of argument.
Sure.
There are already 2 English language schools within walking distance, is Beaverbrook and Birchmount. But there's no French language school. But if we add 10,000 people in that neighborhood, are there any thoughts given by the province, the districts, the city to have land for a French language school and maybe even an additional 10,000 people, an additional English language school?
Yeah, so we are having ongoing conversations with the districts and the province, and I know that the province has come out with some announcements recently around just even recent growth in the demand and need for schools. So we're very, and again, through municipal plan review, through all these big ticket items, we're constantly working with the province to advise them of our growth numbers and our projections in order to make sure that they then are able to meet some of the demand in our forecasting. So I've been told that our urban growth strategy, which targeted high density growth in this area, is one that they've taken under consideration, and we'll continue to work with them. When we were dealing with them, typically it's not necessarily with the province if it's a francophone or an anglophone school, but it is allocation for school space, and then they would address the school space based on the need at their level. So it's something that we're continually working with, and we're strongly encouraging them in areas where we have identified growth and development to consider putting in schools. So it is something, again, that administration is very much aware of and constantly working towards to make sure we're coming out with good outcomes for the residents of Moncton.
And I know that it's down the line, but if we do have 10,000 people more in that area than the trees that are there, my guess is, I don't know if you have formulas, but 1,500 kids, school-aged children. So I don't know where we're going to put them in the existing schools, and we don't want them to take buses if they can walk.
Right.
So I would really encourage the province to look at buying up 2 chunks of land, one for a French language school and one for an English language school, looking at the ratios, 500 kids per school. So I'll leave it up to you, but I hope we don't have to bust them if they can walk. So we are virgin land here. This is the time to think of that. I'll leave it in your able hands. My last question before my comment is, looking at the map, Worthington goes basically from south to north, and then it comes to almost like a 90-degree turn. And just after that 90-degree turn, Cardigan, I'm not sure if it's Cardigan, but there's a new street that goes from following the Wheeler Boulevard. Would it be wise to have a roundabout at that intersection, at that elbow with the other street? Well, if you can bring up the map.
Yeah, if we bring up the map, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same area. Are you talking about where the Worthington, where it's always been, meets the new part of the development?
Well, Worthington takes a.
Yeah, we're looking at it here on the plan here now, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and that's already built. I should say that the extension to Cardigan there, yeah, that's already been constructed. Yeah.
Is this an entrance to
the driveway to the campus, yes.
So would this be a good area for a roundabout?
Renee is here.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, lots of roundabouts questions here. Just to mention that area is already built as an intersection. And so just something to keep in mind is roundabouts are great. The only really major con with a roundabout is the space they take. And so you look at what we've done here, and we had virgin land, and that's what we did just to the east of that, at the intersection of Ayer and Worthington. We built the roundabout. Much more efficient, much more easy to build when you have vacant land than to retrofit an existing intersection, such as Elma Drive, for instance, that was mentioned earlier. However, we also look at, they're more costly, they require more asphalt. And so for a typical residential street that has 2 local streets intersecting each other, which is the case here, typically you'll see your typical 4-way intersection or
I was going to ask if that was the alternative, because I'm preoccupied, as Councillor Butler was, that people are just going to use Worthington to cut across from Killam to Mountain Road unless we have traffic calming mechanisms built in.
Yes, and that's where our traffic calming policy would come in place. Now, unfortunately, for that new stretch of Worthington, we don't have the data to make the judgment call today because, as you know, as per our policy, we need to look at speeding, we need to look at what the volumes are. But definitely for the existing existing section of Worthington, we can actually look at where it fits in our traffic calming policy. I expect that the new section of Worthington will be under our radar screen, under our radar for our traffic calming analysis as well. But for now, we'll look at the existing section because we can do that analysis today.
Okay, perfect. And finally, my comment. since we will have, or we are going to encourage, different types of, 10, I think it was 6 to 10-story apartment buildings as well as single residences in that area. I beg of you to make sure we don't reproduce the dangerous fiasco that we did with Twin Oaks. When we built it, it was built as a connector from what the casino is today. There was no casino at the time. This was actually before my time on council, but it was designed to basically cut across from Upper Mountain Road almost just before the Trans-Canada, all the way to Killam, Berry Mills Road. And it was built wider because of that. Okay. But then the zoning came in, and the zoning allowed for R1s and R2. Well, people just can't cross the street as it was. Usually now, anyways, correct me if I'm wrong, this is where we would have had apartment buildings built along that boulevard with single houses or duplexes behind. So I would hope that we're not going to do what we did with Twin Oaks and increase traffic volumes and the dangerous consequences of those things. And we will put our best brain forward to prevent that kind of mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that's exactly what we've attempted to do, and appreciating like the Twin Oaks example, and I guess that what has occurred and changing over time in terms of that low density housing model, what was available, land supply, land cost, infrastructure costs. I don't know if we would do the same if we built Twin Oaks today. I bet you the zoning would be much different because the recovery on the road just wouldn't be there. So what I would say is that, again, it's anticipated we'll have some form of low density, whether it's from a single to a 4-unit on that side of adjacent to Elmhurst to make sure that we're mitigating any effects to the neighbors. But from there, we're looking at higher density development, which will ultimately reduce the number of individual private driveways. And again, that stretch of space, Renee and his team, as that area develops, will be monitoring any issues with speed or any of those, I guess, events that would result in traffic calming being instituted. But I'm confident that the typology and the layout of what we've put together through the working with the team in Shanix will reduce and mitigate those concerns.
Okay, merci beaucoup. To the developers, good luck. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Conseiller Légère.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois. Conseiller Légère. Councillor Légère, you have the floor. Thank you, Your Worship.
For really seeing having a vision for those lands, and I think it's really important. And certainly, I think you're adding a lot to the future of Moncton. I have a couple of questions, I guess maybe follow-ups to while I was listening to the conversation. So the names proposed in the development, Josh, one of them I saw on the plan is High Street. And so we know with 911 and the conflicts and stuff, is this just thrown out there as a possibility? And if it is, could that be looked at for future?
Yeah, it's referred to as the high street of the development, but essentially in the next subdivision file you see, it's going to be an extension of Air Avenue.
All right.
Yeah, so it was picked first thing I thought of as well. So we're looking at, again, the extension of Air for that connector that will ultimately loop from the north arm of the roundabout through to Cardigan.
Okay, all right. And I apologize for not being there this evening. It's not, although it allows me to experience the technology from being on PEI due to a personal issue, but certainly it isn't the same as being there. With respect to Worthington and all the discussions about traffic and about speed, and maybe this I'll ask the engineering department, and we talk a lot about roundabouts. So maybe to Renee, I looked back as I was listening to an email that you sent back in November 24th about my numerous inquiries about Fredericton and St. John, or Fredericton and Dieppe, mini roundabouts. And so I'm still waiting to hear, but it would occur to me that mini roundabouts on Worthington would be something that we could pilot and could probably work well. But I do look forward to some comments and some feedback related to Fredericton. And I will continue to come back at it because it works. And I don't understand why it is that we can't do that. So I'd rather see roundabouts and see a whole bunch of different speed bumps and things along that line. So I don't know when we can expect maybe an update on that, but I would certainly think that that is something that perhaps we should consider where we have, I think, some flexibility of land along Worthington, if my memory serves me correctly. So I would encourage that.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. It's still on our to-do list, Conseiller Lejean. We will follow up with Fredericton. We have some contacts there. I know they tried different types of mini roundabouts, which are not the same as modern roundabouts, with various challenges with, for instance, snow clearing, other things we got to keep in mind. And but we'll get back to you with some comments.
Okay, I'm encouraged because I haven't removed them. So it tells me then that they've been able to overcome the challenges. So it would be nice to see what they've done and how we can do that. And it appears, I'm not sure, but I would think that perhaps they are low cost and it would be something we could implement. So I appreciate the follow-up and the information that'll come forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller
Merci.
Léger. Conseiller Crossman.
Thank you, Councillor Leger. Councillor Crossman.
For a number of years, we've heard Councillor Butler and Councillor Steves talk about speeding and the rate of speed and I guess people not paying attention when they're going up, into this area through Worthington. You did speak at the mic this evening about engineering, looking at some sort of traffic calming device. You did to a degree mention Worthington, but maybe further down the road. What is your forecast? When do you think you're going to see engineering do some sort of traffic study within this area connecting to this new subdivision? Because I know there's two gentlemen in the room this evening that are from there. Councillor Butler spoke on their behalf, with regards to speeding and the speed. What are you thinking? Because I know we as a council approved a motion in our 2026 budget for additional funding support for projects like this. So what are you seeing in your vision?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to clarify, the section that is currently being built, the Worthington extension, closer to the roundabout, that is the section that we cannot evaluate now because there's no traffic on it. However, what I'm committing to, this week is to look at where Worthington, the existing section of Worthington, sits in our traffic calming program, because I know we've received some comments or concerns about speeding. We may already have done the analysis. I can't confirm because we do get a lot of requests, but I will confirm where it sits. And if we don't have the data, we'll put it on our program so it can be evaluated and see again where it fits on the policy. As you're aware, we do have a budget for traffic calming, which was increased by this council, which is great. But the demands are definitely high when it comes to that program. So again, we'll come back and see where the existing section of Worthington fits in the entire program.
Okay, good. That was my only comment. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Merci. Are there any other comments from anyone?
Thank you very much.
Declare the public hearing closed. C'est beau. No. Conseiller Butler and Conseiller Steves, you wish to move?
Councillor Butler, Councillor Steves, you have
Questions? We've been questioning. There are no other questions, right? So we will go to the vote.
We can close the vote.
Motion carried unanimously. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Like a break, a health break for 10 minutes, or do you wish to go ahead? A break? No? No break? Okay. Let's. Come on. No, I'm fine. It was, okay, let's go for 5 minutes. Bon, merci. Bonsoir, everyone. We will call the meeting to order.
The next item is a tentative subdivision agreement, Station Yards, Shanix, and I believe that either Josh or Josh will be here to do a presentation, but I've lost Josh or Josh. Thank you, Isabel. I could read the recommendation into the record if council so wishes.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. Motion that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Moncton City Council assent to the extension of Avenue Air Avenue Public, assent to the extension of Ruelle Cardigan Lane Public, assent to the relocation of land for public purposes in Cardigan Lane Extension area, and assent to the location of land for public purposes along Bâtisseur Street and either side of Air Avenue, subject to the following conditions: streets and services to be designed and acceptable to the engineering department and constructed in accordance with the subdivision development procedures, standards, and guidelines. And I see Josh Davies at the podium.
Go ahead, Josh.
And try to do my best Paul Edgar impression tonight, so bear with me. So this is, again, is a Station Yard subdivision plan in relation to the master plan that just went through the approval process. Again, located in Ward 3. I won't rehash all of the details of location. This is the area we're looking at, again, with respect to location to Mountain Road, Wheeler Boulevard, in terms of orienting ourselves. The zoning map, which again now will have a CN change due to recent approvals. The purpose of the plan is to create 7 new building lots, an extension of Air Avenue, which will ultimately connect in the future to Cardigan Lane, an extension of Cardigan Lane, both of those being public streets, to create land for public purposes as a result of subdivision, and to create 5 5-meter wide public utility easements along these proposed streets. So here's the subdivision plan. Again, this is a technical version of what you would have just seen through the master planning process. Again, outlining that connection north of the roundabout, extension of Air Avenue to Cardigan, and the allocation of the land for public purposes, and the 5 building lots that were referred to in the report. There are a few consequential changes as a result of previous applications that have come forward to council. One is the no longer need the requirement for station lane, as shown here in yellow. That will be replaced by private streets as the area develops. So again, as a consequence of the master plan process and going through those approvals and review, the station lane that was previously assented to by council is no longer required following a interdepartmental development review. In terms of the land for public purposes, as we see here, the allocation and connection, there was existing LFPP bringing up to that area in yellow as we go from south to north, ultimately landing at that larger area to the north again. So providing that connectivity for all of the residents of all ages in this area in terms of being able to get to where they want to go beyond their private vehicle. Other areas, again, land of public purposes, seeing an extension of Cardigan Lane. This was previously assented to as LFPP through a previous application and has now been revoked, and the LFPP essentially has been reallocated through this master planning process. And so this will now become an extension of Cardigan Lane, a street ultimately connecting to Bâtisseur in the future when warranted for that connection out to Mountain Road. So ultimately, this did go to Planning Advisory Committee for their review, and they recommend that Moncton City Council assent to the extension of Air Avenue, assent to the extension of Cardigan Lane, both of those being public, assent to the relocation of land for public purposes in the Cardigan Lane extension area, and assent to the location for land for public purposes along Bâtisseur Street and either side of that Air Avenue extension. Subject to the following conditions: and the street be designed and acceptable to engineering department and constructed in accordance with subdivision development procedures, standards, and guidelines. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Conseiller Bourgeois, do you wish to move the recommendation? C'est beau. So, donc, Conseiller Butler and Steves moved and seconded. Go ahead, Conseiller Bourgeois. Allez-y.
Ah, merci, excusez. Merci, Josh, mais j'ai une
Thank you, Josh. I have a question.
As a condition of approval of the subdivision plan, land in the amount of 10% of the area of the subdivision, exclusive of public street, at such location as assented to, is to be set aside as land for public purposes. I'm very confused because when I asked the question about this for the same project a few minutes ago, I was told that it was inclusive of public street. What am I?
No,
what am I missing?
exclude with the exception of the streets. So it's the 10% is applied once the street network is laid down. So remember, that's how we got to that discrepancy between the 7.3 and the 8.1. Is what we put down. So the road network here, once that is removed, or once that was laid down on the site, the 10% is taken from that amount.
Oh, that's not very clear. Your explanation is clear, but
Yeah.
the way it's written here, it seems to be 10% excluding public streets.
I think what we can do is we will look at I'll talk to Paul around the language that we're using just to make sure that we're saying like once streets and infrastructure is applied, the 10% is applied, this is the result. So it'll provide a bit of a clearer picture. I believe this is probably just language that's used in policy or used in legislation, but we could probably clarify that to make sure we're not creating any confusion as to where the percentage comes from.
I think you can clarify it right now. So 81 acres, 10% is 8.1. Does it include or not the streets?
It doesn't include, so the streets are applied 10% minus the streets.
So we have 8.1 acres for LFPP plus the street?
No, minus. So what we would do is we would have our 80 acres, we apply, say we're taking 10 acres for land infrastructure, land, roads, we would be at 70 net, we would have my understanding is we'd have a 7-acre yield.
So we get streets and at the end of it, we got 7.3 or 8.
So once the street network is laid down, we apply the 10% based on what's left.
Never mind about percentage. I want to know how much acreage we have left for.
10% of the balance minus, CAO has got his light on.
So perhaps I can clarify. You start with 80 acres, you put down the streets, that removes 10 acres.
Let's say 81 because that's.
Let's say 81.
Okay.
You put down the streets, it's 10 acres of street, the size of the street. The 10% of the LFPP is what's remaining of the developable land. So I think you were saying the same thing. I think you were just not connecting.
Not very clear. Okay, thank you. Now it is. Merci.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Are there any other questions from council? If not, we will go to the vote, which is electronic.
We can close the vote.
Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
Thank you.
The last urban planning matter this evening is Atlantic Science Enterprise Center cash in lieu for reduced off-street parking. And I believe that Josh Adams is taking this one.
Bonsoir.
Thanks again. Bonsoir.
Encore.
Encore, oui.
Good evening. Good evening again.
I'm going back through the records here a little bit. I don't think the city has actually ever dealt with this section of the zoning bylaw before. So this is actually kind of new for everyone. So hopefully you can bear with me and we'll get through this. So the request is coming from Public Services and Procurement Canada. So they're the kind of the lead contractor on the new Atlantic Science Enterprise Center. And the request is dealing with a reduction to the required number of off-street parking spaces. So they're looking to reduce the number of spaces required from 461 to 342. The zoning bylaw does allow a mechanism where you can pay cash in lieu of $2,500 per space that is not provided. And so essentially what's happening is Public Services and Procurement Canada is looking to make a significant contribution to the city in the order of $297,500 to reduce the required parking that's required for the development. So this project again is located on Université Avenue. So this is the former, I guess, the current fisheries building. The development is occurring over a number of phases. So I'm sure you've all probably seen these renderings before. So they're under construction on kind of the new wing right now, and then a future phase will look at revamping the existing fisheries building. So this is, a very high quality development. This is a substantial investment in the city. And at the end result, we'll have about 700 employees, all located at this center, all federal employees. So again, the zoning bylaw today does regulate, basically it sets a number, a standard that's required for new development. So if you're applying for a new building, you need to provide, X number of parking spaces. But what the zoning bylaw doesn't do is it doesn't account for a lot of nuance that we often see with developments. So for instance, it doesn't account for, where your project might be located geographically in the city. So in this case, where we have access to transit, we're, located in a central area, we're walkable to different neighborhoods. We do have, people using AT to get to work. It doesn't really account for that. It's the same amount of parking that would be required if you're located, kind of further out. The other thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't account for really the minutia in different land uses and what's actually happening inside the building. So we're looking at this calculation as an office use, but really what you have happening on this site is a lot of laboratory space and a lot of different uses where you're going to have fewer employees working kind of per square foot than what the zoning bylaw is envisioning is actually happening there. So we're actually asking for more parking that's probably going to be required when you look at what's actually happening inside the building. It's just that our zoning bylaw doesn't account for those nuances. The zoning bylaw then also does contain that mechanism for council to consider reducing the required number of parking for cash in lieu. And like I said, we've never dealt with this before because we've never had a developer willing to pay us money. So, we're very thankful that that Public Services and Procurement Canada is looking to follow the rules and make this investment. And then there's further legislation within the Community Planning Act that dictates how this money can get used. So it has to be used for, basically it's cash in lieu that's used for the purposes of developing, further off-street parking, whether that's near the area or just anywhere kind of citywide. So the rationale that's kind of submitted in support of this project. So the building that's being constructed is, basically like the prime example of how to build a green building, sustainable development, in the city, but also really across Atlantic Canada. So they're seeking basically LEED certification. So that's leadership and energy through environmental design. This is a globally recognized standard for, sustainable buildings. And part of that requirement is that a substantial amount of the space needs to be open space of the site. So when we're talking about the site specifically, they need to account for 32% of the site as open space. They're actually providing more open space than what's required there. So that's one of the requirements that they need to meet that sustainable, that LEED certification. So what that means is that that really does limit the amount of space that you can use for surface parking. Parking being asphalt, impermeable surface, it's not sustainable, obviously. So they're working towards more of a green, more of a natural environment around the building. Additional structured parking is also something that they looked into, but it is extremely cost prohibitive and to the point that it makes the project non-viable. They've also submitted a number of studies, both a traffic impact study and a sustainable transportation commuter survey that really demonstrates that their parking needs are below what the zoning bylaw is requiring. And this is the reason why they're making the application. They're still going to be providing enough parking for what they need when the facility is completely built. It's just not going to be quite as much as our zoning bylaw requires of that project. So the traffic impact study, I'll speak a little bit to it. So it was completed for basically the full build out of the development, and it looked at, all the existing, traffic scenarios happening on Université Avenue and as well as future development. And what it found is that, it's expected to generate, the ASEC when it's completed, about 149 morning peak hour trips and 135 afternoon peak hour trips. The traffic study did find that traffic queuing on University Avenue is expected when the development is complete. That's largely due to background conditions, so traffic generated from other areas, not necessarily the Fisheries Building, but certainly it is going to be contributing to that. And then there's a number of improvements that are recommended by the traffic study. So one of them is that new traffic signals are warranted at the northern driveway, the northern entrance into the site. So the developer will be responsible for putting those in. It also recommended, changes to the signal timing and optimizing basically that signal timing and potentially looking at a dedicated pedestrian phase. It recommended, good sight lines through landscaping and site design to ensure that pedestrians walking and crossing the street are visible to drivers. So that's a safety issue. It did also recommend a new crosswalk at the south driveway. So again, another opportunity for people to cross the street safely. And then it also really recommended enhancements to both public transit and active transportation. So when we're getting to the point now where, the city's growing and we're getting more and more people coming into this area, we really need to start talking about, shifting people to different modes, whether it be public transportation or active transportation as a method to get to work. And then they also submitted a commuter survey. So this survey was commissioned and done by transportation researchers at Dalhousie University. What they did is they basically went and there's about 700 employees that'll be coming to the ASEC when it's complete. They basically asked those employees who are going to be working here, how do you plan to get to work when you're living in Moncton? So of all the surveys that they sent out, they got 374 responses, which is a pretty good response rate, over 50%. And the findings are pretty interesting. So if you took just a scenario today, Université as it is today, about 20% of employees indicated that they intend to use alternative modes to get to work. So alternative modes could be public transit, it could be walking, it could be cycling, or it could be carpooling with someone else. What really gets more interesting is, the survey continues to ask about, what would it take for you to actually think about, maybe taking a different way to get to work other than driving? And if you're not driving to work, then you're not taking up a parking space. So the responses showed that if there was more frequent and express bus service provided, another 12% of workers would consider taking public transit to get to work. And what's really interesting is that people said that, right now they don't feel safe cycling. There's no bike lanes on Université, so it's very dangerous. But they said that, if cycling infrastructure, like proper bike lanes were installed, 28% of respondents would indicate that they would bike to work. It's just that the infrastructure is not there. So what these numbers are showing us is that there is latent demand for public transit. There is latent demand for active transportation. It's just that right now, we don't have the infrastructure to support it. And obviously these alternative modes of transportation can absolutely lead to a significant reduction of greenhouse gas emissions among commuters. And that was all kind of detailed in the survey as well. So what we're showing is that, people want to take different modes to get to work. And luckily, we have enough time, like the ASEC's not to be completed until 2032. So we have enough time to think about, what improvements can we make in order to facilitate that movement to and from work. So the reduction of required parking is actually aligned with the goals already in the municipal plan that speaks to, walkable communities, transit-oriented development. It's also aligned with, goals in the community energy and emissions plan that speaks to reducing parking to incentivize different modes of transportation. And it's also actually aligned with the city's active transportation plan. So the active transportation plan that was done a couple of years ago actually shows Université that should have dedicated cycling facilities. So this is all kind of lining up that in the right way, this is the vision for Université. Furthermore, the proponent has indicated that they're absolutely confident that the proposed number of parking spaces that they're providing on site, the 342, is sufficient to meet their needs for both employees and fleet vehicles. So with that, again, the proponent is just looking to follow, the requirements in the zoning bylaw, and that is that council can, at their discretion, reduce the required number of parking spaces. The council can, at their discretion, reduce the required number of parking spaces for a cash in lieu payment of $2,500 per space. So again, the recommendation from administration is that council approve the request, and that would lead to a cash in lieu payment of $297,500, with the condition that payment be received prior to any future building and/or development permit. In speaking with the applicant, if council, passes this tonight, they'd be expecting to make the payment sometime this spring, likely March or April. So just to give you a bit of a timeline on that. So thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Josh. We have a motion. Conseiller Crossman, do you wish to move? Conseiller Leblanc, second. C'est vous. Donc, are there any questions on this? Conseiller Richard.
Merci, Madame Stereo. Thank you again, Josh. 700 employees, reducing parking from 461 to 342. 4 agencies, a reduction of 119 spaces. That's a lot, but that's good. They made the decision. I appreciate the commuter survey by the applicant. That's so proactive, and the highlights provided in the CRF support the reduction. The peak times provided in the traffic study. Do we know what those numbers look like, or how they looked like before the project started? Coming in and out of there.
I might delegate to our engineering team.
We don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just wondering how much of an increase.
I'm sorry, but Councilor Richard through Deputy Mayor, I don't know the numbers offhand. We could let you know later, but I mean, the numbers were all provided in the traffic impact study. We just don't know them offhand.
Right, no, and that's fair. Just wondering what the difference would be. It's really nice to see
Yes,
that.
and so the numbers that are quoted in the CRF are in addition to the existing fisheries center traffic.
Oh.
So that's it was,
Yep.
It was 100 something, but that was in addition to
what
the fisheries center traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just interesting to see. The approximate 297.5 that would be collected from the applicant. It says we would be for acquiring or developing land for public off-street parking. Are we into those plans yet? Do we have something? Are we working on something yet? Is there anything that we can talk about? How much money is already saved in that account type thing?
So the answer is no plan. And again, because I don't think we've ever taken this payment, we actually need to create basically this new account. As per the legislation, it's very specific that this money goes to a special account, is to be used only for this purpose. So that's not to say that, there's not a project that'll come up that this can contribute to. It could be capital improvements for, if we're looking at potentially, making upgrades to the parking garage downtown, or just, anything else that could support off-street parking. That money is a stepping stone to use in other areas.
Looking forward to that as well. Merci beaucoup.
See, Conseiller Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Josh, just one question. I think you touched on it just a second ago, and maybe Jacques will help you out. 297,500 to be collected will go into a separate reserve. Is that what you're saying with regards to parking challenges, shall I say, throughout the city that it can be dispensed on? Is that the way that this works?
So I can speak to the legislative requirement, and I don't know
Okay.
if Jacques wants to chime in, but the legislation for this payment is very specific, that the funds that are basically paid to the city go into a special account,
Okay.
and they're to be used only for the purposes of basically either buying land for off-street parking or developing off-site off-street parking facilities.
Parking related.
Correct. Yeah.
Parking related, okay. Because in the CRF, it does say future costs may arise, right, to support this. So I just want to make sure that that money is directed towards parking or additional parking. Everybody says there's too much parking currently, but I want to make sure that it goes into reserve and is dedicated towards this idea. So, okay, now that couldn't touch on active transportation, right? We can't take money out for active transportation. You alluded to bike lanes.
Yeah.
Which the presentation to start off the evening was a development on the same street. And in the CRF, it said people are going to be encouraged to use bicycles, but we just touched on there are no bike lanes, right?
Yeah, so that's actually, I think, one of the unfortunate barriers of this part of the legislation. Actually, it's interesting, Halifax has very similar legislation, but the legislation allows you to use it for public transit facilities. And so it'd be interesting if, we could have maybe a legislative tweak at the provincial level to use it for either public transit or active transportation. That would actually line up better with our goals here, right? Of terms of we want to encourage biking. We have the commuter survey that says that people actually want to bike to work, but we don't have the facilities. We have a plan to bring facilities. We have a developer that's willing to give us money to contribute to it.
Yeah.
And we can't use it for that, right? So I've already kind of submitted some comments to the provincial planning director on this. I hope that, we could maybe see some tweaks to the legislation. But as it stands today, it can only be used for the purposes of off-site parking.
Yeah, that would be a great tweak, especially knowing that we're trying to encourage them to use active transportation and public transportation.
Yeah.
To get to and from work. It would be ideal for Kodiak Transpo to be involved in that, discussion and getting people to work exactly the way that this plan is supposed to work.
Exactly, and it would better align with, our goals as a city in terms of shifting towards more sustainable, modes of transportation. It would align with the federal government's goals. They want to have, a sustainable workplace. And I think it would align with the province's goals as well. But, here we are stuck with a piece of legislation that doesn't allow it. So, we submitted comments in, and I'm hopeful, but not necessarily going to, hang on the edge of my seat on that one.
Okay, good. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks.
Merci, conseiller Crossman, conseiller Léger.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse, and thanks, Josh. I'm just curious, though. So the legislation is defined, though, in terms of if you want to give up, if you want City Council to reduce your amount of parking, you are obligated to pay per space that you are giving up, correct? So in other words, they're doing what they are obligated to do. My question, though, would be, and that's just for clarification. So it's good that they're doing it, but they have to do it. But the second thing is that can we specifically ask that those funds be directed in that area? Because we've got the Vitalité, Georges Dumont across the street. We have all of that congestion in that area. It would seem to me that almost $300,000 should go towards implementing things to make it easier for that whole area that's impacted by this particular development. And so if we don't have that in the legislation, is it something that as City Council, we can make clear that these funds are going to be spent in this area, whether it's speed reduction, so on? Is that possible?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the legislation is not specific about where the funds are to be spent in the municipalities. So there's no geographic constraint accepting the funds. If council wishes to really make sure that the funds are directed here, I think that would, I might defer to our, our CFO here for some clarifications, but,
Sure.
I think that's potentially possible, but I'll let Jacques speak to it. He'll be more knowledgeable than me.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Conseil Léger. So, yes, that could be a condition. In the end, council does decide, or the future councils will decide, they have to approve any withdrawal of reserves. So when that budget request is made or so on. So, I mean, it can be there. One of the risk of, and it's not really a risk, but one of the things to be cautious about is if we make that request and in the end, there's never an opportunity to spend those funds in that area for whatever reason, I can't see it, but no, you can make that request as well, and we can segregate it into a specific reserve to be spent in that area.
I think it would be worthwhile to explore what it is that we can do with those funds. If it may require, I guess ultimately it should really focus on that area because they're the ones that are going to see that impact. So perhaps in the future we can have a discussion, Jacques, for tonight. This is the amount of money that is being considered for acceptance by City Council, and then maybe we can look at what are the initiatives that we could be involved in. It could be things like contributing to more infrastructure to allow perhaps some overflow parking that's needed within the community and so on, or maybe bike lane. It could be a variety of different things. So if we could, I think I'd like to have that as an action item and we take a look at that later on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? S'il y a pas de-
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the vote.
We can close the vote.
Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
The next item is statements by members of council, les exposés des membres du conseil. Okay, and we have a list this evening. Conseiller Richard.
Councillor Richard. Please go ahead. Thank you very much. I would like to take a moment to congratulate all of those who took part in Canada Day in Hockey Night in Canada. That was held in Moncton last month. Those events cannot happen without amazing coordination and commitments. I'd like to highlight the contribution of municipal services, the many volunteers and the community organizations that all contributed to the success of this organization. It was an excellent opportunity to showcase Moncton's ability to welcome international events while fostering a sense of belonging in the community and our sense of hospitality. I'd like to highlight also the role of the Canadian Hockey Association for the Blind for all the work they do in terms of accessibility and inclusion by creating opportunities for everyone, whatever their abilities. It reflects the best of what hockey represents. I'd like to highlight Simon Richard and Daniel. I'd like to congratulate them for their energy and fact that demonstrate that we can all work together to achieve great things.
I think Councillor Kingston's going to chime in on this too. On behalf of the citizens of Moncton, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all city employees and volunteers who helped make Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada, in partnership with Sportsnet, such an outstanding community success. Your professionalism, dedication, and behind-the-scenes efforts were very evident in every detail of this national celebration. Moncton residents, as well as visitors who joined us for the festivities, and viewers from across Canada, all benefited from the exceptional work you put into showcasing our city at its very best. Your contributions made this event not only memorable, but a true point of pride for our community. Thank you for all you do. To the Mr. CAO, I am requesting that the chair of the CRPA, or Kodiak Regional Policing Authority, along with Moncton's appointed members, present an update to Moncton City Council. With the recent changes at the CRPA, it will be helpful for Council and the public to receive a clear overview of the current structure, priorities, and governance direction. In addition to an update on the recent changes, I ask that the presentation include an outlook for the CRPA's work in 2025, including anticipated operational focused areas, community engagement plans, and any additional plans for collaboration for the 2026 year. Separately, Mr. CAO, it has come to my attention that approximately 16 affordable rooms with rising tide developments or possibly a new ownership, specifically Louisville Road and West Main Street locations, are currently sitting empty. Given the ongoing and increasing pressures related to the housing and homelessness in our community, which the City of Moncton and Council contributed funding to provide additional housing, I am requesting clarification on why these fully developed units remain unoccupied. Thank you, and I look forward to your follow-up during the February 2nd Moncton City Council public meeting. Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Kingston.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Annes. Can I respond to Councillor Crossman first of all, and I'll jump into the Scotiabank? Yeah, there are, most recently this week, there are CRPA strategic planning sessions scheduled. A long one on the weekend, I think 5 hours among the committee members, and scheduled right through the spring and winter. So yeah, we'll get back to that update for sure. With their new chair, Jean Gauguin. I wanted to fill in the blanks, and thank you, Monsieur Deschamps, pour le discours en français pour la journée du hockey Scotiabank.
To thank Councillor Richard for his speech in French concerning Hockey Night in Canada.
The city ops people, obviously at the Avenir, Ian Fowler Oval, just tremendous work there. The local committees with co-chairs Michelle Duffy and Natasha Ostaff, city partnership along with city ops, but obviously Isabelle, Shane, and Chad and their groups, tremendous. The volunteer committees in Moncton, we're always very engaged. And whenever there's a large sport tourism events, we're always there. Tremendous response and work by the committees. So the blind hockey tournament, as Mr. Conseiller Shaw mentioned, Dave Saldan at the Avenir, the Wildcats hosting the banquet on Thursday, which many of you attended. Pro Kids benefiting hugely. They are an organization that really families and kids suffering financial hardship get chances to play hockey and register and equip it, and that entire thing. The Sportsnet panel, the school visits, the hockey clinics, the Timbit tournament and its great past, founded in Riverview, and the Four Nations Cups and the Gilles Courteau and the Stanley Cup in display over the past 2 weeks. So just a tremendous 4 days. Moncton involved, obviously City of Moncton and councillor members, and we had a ball. Anyway, just thank you very much for everybody participating. Merci Paul pour le français encore. It was great, including a couple of Wildcat games tossed in, plus an alumni game on Friday, which I survived. So anyway, thank you very much for everybody. Just a tremendous 4 days. Merci, Madame Medes. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire.
Councillor Bourgeois. Thank you, Your Worship.
Two topics. One, elections are coming. I know it's on May 11th, but there are already candidates going door to door. That's secondary. I encourage people to submit their candidacy. It's not an easy job, but contributing to the quality of life of Monctonians is well worth it. But I also want to inform the candidates or potential candidates, or even people who want to figure out more, get more information on municipal elections. There will be Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock at the City Hall here, an information session on municipal elections. So you can come in, get information, ask questions, and should be very interesting. Second item, tax bills are also coming. You should receive your tax bills in the mail over the next few days. You should not expect too much of a difference compared to last year because the city did not increase the tax rate and the government of New Brunswick froze the assessments. So you don't expect too much of a difference. It does mean for the city, though, that we have lost $12 million in revenues that we cannot spend on services and programs. And because of that loss, we were not able to reduce the tax rate for the 5th consecutive year. We've done it over the past 4 years. We've reduced it by 17.5%, but we couldn't do it this year. So, but at least your assessment should remain the same, your tax rate should remain the same, so the bills should be the same. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci. Il n'y a pas d'autres commentaires.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think there's any other statement by members of council. I'd like to thank you for your kind words about what happened last weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Des comités et réunions à huis clos. And we have one recommendation coming out of the private session of January 12, 2026. Moncton City Council at its private meeting of January 12, 2026 reports that the agenda for the private meeting of January 12, 2026 was adopted and recommends the following. That Moncton City Council, 1, approve J.N. Lafford Realty, Inc.'s application for the proposed development at 200 Assumption Boulevard, Lot 25-2, and 210 Assumption Boulevard, Lot 25-1, under the redevelopment grant program, which is established under the Financial Incentive Program policy for the Downtown Core Community Improvement Plan area and designated heritage properties per redevelopment grant amounts found in the financial grant model. 2, approve J.N. Lafford Realties, Inc.'s application for the building permit and planning fee equivalent grant program, which is established under the Financial Incentive Program policy for Downtown Core Community Improvement Plan area and designated heritage properties for the proposed development at 200 Assumption Boulevard, Lot 25-2, and 210 Assumption Boulevard, Lot 25-1, once the conditions of the program are fulfilled by the applicant and verified by city administration. 3, approve Hummingbird Atlantic Properties, Inc.'s application for the proposed development at 4151 Lewis Street and 55 Lewis Street, PID 706-42277 and PID 00681411 under the redevelopment grant program, which is established under the Financial Incentive Program Policy for the Downtown Business Improvement, BIA, and Central Business District, CBD, per redevelopment grant amounts found in the financial grant model. 4, approve Hummingbird Atlantic Property, Inc.'s application for the building permit and planning fee equivalent grant program, which is established under the Federal Incentive Program Policy for Downtown Business Improvement Areas, BIA, and the Central Business District, CBD, for the proposed amount at 41-51 Lewis Street and 55 Lewis Street, PID 706-42277 and PID 00681411, once a condition of the program are fulfilled by the applicant and verified by the city administration. 5, approve St. Bernard Square, Inc. applications for the proposed development at 75 Botsford Street, PID 706-77273, under the redevelopment grant program, which is established under the Financial Incentive Program Policy for the Downtown Business Improvement Area, BIA, and Central Business District, CBD, per redevelopment grant amounts found in the financial grant model. 6, approve St. Bernard Square, Inc.'s application for building permit and planning fee equivalent grant program, which is established under the Financial Incentive Program for Policy for Downtown Business Improvement Area, BIA, and Central Business District, CBD, for the proposed development at 75 Botsford Street, PID 70677273, once the conditions of the program are fulfilled by the applicant and verified by city administration. And 7, direct the city legal department to draft grant payment agreements using the standard form agreement attached to the policy and add relevant information with respect to the grant and the project of the applicant, and that the deputy mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign said agreement and affix the corporate seal of the city of Moncton thereto. Backgrounder, at the December 15, 2025 meeting, City Council approved the extension of the current program until February 26, 2026. The extension allows application received in early December 2025 to be processed and helped to bridge the gap between the existing and new programs currently being reviewed by administration. The application that fall under this program include J.N. Lafford Realty, Inc., Hummingbird Atlantic Properties, Inc., and St. Bernard's Square, Inc.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Greffière. I need a mover and a seconder.
Thank you very much, Madam City Clerk.
Any questions? Il n'y a pas de questions, so we will go to the vote.
We can close the vote.
Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
Next is reports from administration, le rapport de l'administration, and there is one before council this evening. 10.1 is a quotation QP 25-070 Traffic Control Services. The motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve administration's recommendation to award quotation QP 25-070 Traffic Control Services to the lowest bidder, meeting all terms and conditions, specification, and requirement, being Safety First Contracting Limited, in accordance with the hourly labor rates and daily equipment rental rates specified in the firm's quotation submission, which represents a total estimated 3-year contract value of $890,087.28, including HST at 15%.
Merci, Madame la greffière. Conseiller Butler moved.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
Questions on this? Conseiller Bourgeois.
Councillor Bourgeois. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know who I should ask the question to, but it's an amount of about $1 million. And the quotes were for 6,000 regular hours and 600 after hours.
10 regular hours and 400 after hours. And it says below that the city does not guarantee the purchase of specific dollar amounts or quantity of services through the award of this quotation. So if they bid based on those numbers, let ballpark it to $1 million, what happens if the estimate deviates, let's say 10% either way? So do they get an overtime bonus because they provide the safety more than the 6,000 hours? And what happens if we don't use their services, let's say by 10% less? Do we get a refund on this amount?
Thank Your Worship, to Conseiller Bourgeois. Yes, that would be the case. So in this instance, it's pay for service, so we pay by the hour. If there's less hours, we pay less. If there's more hours, we pay more. That's very simple.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Are there other questions?
Thank you, Your Worship.
We can close the vote.
Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
The next item are reading of bylaws. The first 4 are first readings, and council's already given me permission to do that with the items that we had discussed previously. Just for the public to know that these are available to you if you would like a copy. They will be online at moncton.ca, and they can call my office to have one mailed to them or faxed or sent via electronic measures. The first one is 11.1. It's a bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the adoption of the City of Moncton Municipal Plan, being bylaw Z 122.14, 259 Université Avenue, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant l'adoption du plan municipal de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z122.14, 259 Avenue Université. C'est la première lecture. 11.2, a bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw, being bylaw Z 222.59, 259 University Avenue. It's the first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.59, 259 Avenue Université. C'est la première lecture. 11.3, a bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the adoption of the City of Moncton's municipal plan, being bylaw Z 122.13, Michaud Avenue, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant l'adoption du plan municipal de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 122.13 rue Michaud, première lecture. A bylaw and amendment of 11.4 is a bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw, being bylaw Z 222.58, Michaud Street, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.58, rue Michaud. C'est la première lecture. The following, I think 3, I will need approval from council to give second reading.
So could I have a mover and a seconder for this? Conseiller Richard, Conseiller Butler. Do we go to questions?
And show of hands.
Oh, show of hands. C'est bon. Merci.
Bylaw amendment of the bylaw relating to the establishing of a code of conduct for elected officials being bylaw A 1218.2. It's a second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant l'établissement d'un code de déontologie des représentants élus, soit l'arrêté A 1218.2. C'est la deuxième lecture. I'll require third reading, and this will be an electronic vote.
Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Kingston, Conseiller Radjet. C'est beau, merci.
Can we bring up the vote, please?
Is it electronic?
Electronic, yes. We can close the vote. Eleven point five, a bylaw and amendment of the bylaw relating to establishing a code of conduct for elected officials being bylaw A 1218.2. It's the third reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant l'établissement d'un code de déontologie des représentants élus, soit l'arrêté A 1218.2. C'est la troisième lecture.
And I need a move, excusez-moi, I need a mover and a seconder for this. Conseiller Leblanc, Conseiller Steves.
Okay, that mover and the seconder would be for the next one, which is the zoning bylaw for Price and Elmwood. We had already done the mover and the seconder for third reading, so if now it would be for Price and Elmwood. We'll need a second for second reading. I need a mover and a seconder.
Conseillère Edgett, you wish to move this, and Conseiller Steves. C'est beau, merci.
Show of hands. A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.55, Price and Elmwood. It's the second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.55, rue Price et Elmwood. C'est la deuxième lecture. I will require third reading.
So I need a mover. Conseiller Edgett, Conseiller Butler.
This will be an electronic vote. Councillor Kingston? Councillor Kingston? Could you, thank you. We can close the vote. A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.55, Price and Elmwood. This is the third reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.55, rue Price et Elmwood. C'est la deuxième lecture. I require
Donc, Conseiller Bourgeois and Conseiller Kingston.
Okay.
Bon, merci.
Bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.54. It's station yards, second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.54. C'est la deuxième lecture. I require third reading.
Donc, Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Leblanc. C'est bon, merci.
This will be an electronic vote. Okay, Councillor Kingston. Councillor Kingston.
Yes, pardon.
We can close the vote.
The 6 days of work with
Okay, so, okay, we are now done bylaws. Now we have a notice of motion and resolution, avis de motion et résolution. And this evening, there's an appointment to a bylaw officer, Brandon Vidito. I do not need to read that into the record. You absolutely don't want me to read that into the record. You have it in your package. I just need a mover and a seconder.
Conseiller Butler and Conseiller Kingston. Oh, so we will go to Electronic vote.
Yeah. Jose Lejar, are you still online? Jose Lejar? Allez-y.
Yes, I am, and I voted.
Oh.
It
It's
just
not,
didn't register this one for some reason.
is it a yay or a nay?
But it's a yay.
Okay, thank you. Can we
Thank you.
close the vote, please? Jose Lejar, did you have something?
Yes, I actually would like to bring to light the notice of resolution that I brought forward along with Councillor Kingston in December, our last meeting. It might have been the 15th. And so it was the one related to having a dedicated downtown security patrol and providing a community resilience fund to support small businesses. And so I would trust that it would be coming to council the first meeting in February. And I do thank staff for their looking into this, and I understand the period between Christmas, but I just want to assure everyone that it gets captured the first meeting in February.
Thank you for I guess, bringing this up, Councilor Lejar. Yes, absolutely. Staff is doing their due diligence at this moment, and we'll be bringing it forward for discussion and debate on February 2nd.
Great. Thank you very much. Merci. Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
Merci.
I believe you have appointment.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Lawrence Forbes to the Heritage Board. To the Planning Advisory Committee, Marie-Pierre Levesque. These are reappointments, I believe. Shane File, reappointment. Sorry, Madame Levesque is not a reappointment, it's a 3-year appointment. Miles Mallet, reappointment for 3 years. Roxanne Richard, reappointment for 3 years. And Dale McFarland, reappointment for 2 years. I need a mover and a seconder. Conseillère Edgett, wish to move. Conseiller Richard. Merci. Go ahead, Conseiller Butler.
Yeah, regards to the one that's being appointed, the others are all reappointments except for one. That I would like to divide that one if we could, because I'll be voting nay against that because they've already been notified, correct?
I'm sorry, you
I'm going to be voting nay
yes,
about the one that's been appointed,
yeah.
not reappointed, but appointed, because I have no idea who she is,
Okay.
he or she. So I'll be voting. It's, again, I talk about the rubber stamping, and sometimes these people are elected, or selected, called, and then they come to us to be rubber stamped, and I don't agree with it. So,
Did you not receive?
yes, I did. I did do that.
With this,
Yep.
all the background information.
I guess you're missing my point. My point is that they're called and advised that they're on the committee before it comes to us.
Je comprends pas.
Okay, no, it's nothing on you.
We have discussed this.
We have many times.
So we will divide the motion. That's not a problem.
So you are dividing, we'll need a seconder to divide the motion. So Butler, Councillor Butler, you've divided the motion, you need a seconder.
Okay, Conseiller
Steve.
Steves,
Okay,
we need a vote.
you need a vote, it'll show of hands, please. Who wants in favor? So, so nay,
Okay,
Councillor
motion carried.
Bourgeois. Leblanc. Es-tu pour ou contre la division? Okay, contre. Nada, ça doit être pour ou contre?
Je vais aller pour.
Pour, okay. Then Edget, you were contre. Okay, so nays are Councillor Bourgeois, Leblanc, and Edget. And Conseiller Léger, peux-tu faire ton vote, s'il vous plaît?
Councillor Legier, can you vote? I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Allez-y, Conseiller Léger.
Go ahead, Councillor Legier.
4 nay votes in favor of splitting it. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought you had said nay. Sorry. Okay. So we have 3 nay votes, Leblanc, Edget, et Léger. Motion carries.
Oui.
Okay, so we will vote on the first, Mr. Ford's, like for the Heritage,
We can do the reappointments.
the reappoints. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so we should, yeah.
No, but Monsieur Forbes is a new appointment.
Okay. So, Mr. Ford, you are also
Whoever's being newly appointed.
appointed. Okay.
The reappointments, no.
How do we fix this, though? I mean, I,
Okay. Okay, so the first would be that the appointment to the Heritage Conservation is Lawrence Forbes, and the appointment for the Planning Advisory Committee would be Marie-Pierre Levesque. That is the first one that we will vote for. So then the second one, so we need to deal with this first vote that of Mr. Ford's and Madame Levesque that are newly appointed members to boards or to an ABCC. So that would be your first vote. So we have that, the mover, we need a mover for that. Edget,
Conseiller Leblanc. Conseiller Leblanc.
okay? And seconded by, okay. So then now we're going to do a show of hands vote, so it'll be so much easier. So those in favor of not reappointment, of new, so Mr. Ford, which is a new appointment, and Madame Levesque, who is a new appointment. We're voting on that. It was moved by Councillor Edget, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. So we're voting who is for.
Names again?
Lawrence Ford to the Heritage Board, and the Planning Advisory Committee was Marie-Pierre Levesque. Okay, so in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nay? Councillor Butler. Motion carries. The next would be, Conseiller Léger, sorry, je t'ai oublié.
Councillor Legier, sorry, I forgot you. Go ahead and vote. Councillor Legier, I'm sorry.
I think that what Councillor Butler was saying was, I don't know, it seemed that it was that we should vote on individual new appointees. In particular, had some concerns with the new appointees. And so why are we grouping them? Whereas if you would not instead divide them. Either way, I think I do have a quick question though to you, Shelley, and the question is: are new appointees called and told that they're on the committee, or are they called to indicate that their interest in the committee has been noted and that they could be considered as a appointee should council decide to appoint them?
From my understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I can get back to you. From my understanding, they are asked if they're still willing to sit on this particular board when there's an appointment, because sometimes they will apply a year ago. Things change in your life. You could move away, you could not live in the city anymore, you could not be interested whatsoever to be sitting on this committee. So I believe that what happens is they're contacted and they're said, are you willing to still keep your name forward? I don't think that they're told until after they're appointed.
So perhaps we need some clarification and we need some standard language so that, and I understand that everyone would be sent an email or contacted saying, do you wish your name to remain standing for this committee? And then maybe we could get away from some of this, perhaps, unless there's some other details that I'm not aware of. But I think it's certainly a conversation we need to have, and we've had it a number of times, and I think we need to find some way to kind of bring this to a close.
It is coming back to council with the
Very good.
ABCCs. There is going to be stronger wording when it comes back in how we do and what our practice will be.
Okay, so based on what you just were voting on for the two individuals, I would vote in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now for the reappointments, which would be Cheyenne Fail for the 2-year reappointment for Planning Advisory, Miles Malley, reappointment 3 years, Roxanne Richard, reappointment 3 years, Dale McLaren, reappointment 2 years. So we'd need a mover and a seconder.
Sir Edgett and Conseiller Steves.
Okay. Can we just do a show of hands?
Show of hands.
This is for the reappointments. Unanimous. No, nay. Nay, Conseiller Bourgeois. Okay, oui, Conseiller Bourgeois, okay. Motion carries unanimously.
We adjourn the meeting. Conseiller Richard. Je vous remercie. Que tu me dis,